Amy, I hope you can improve the food. It's not very good. What do you mean by not very good? I want better bread, and there are better ovens for baking bread now. Alright, I'll tell the housekeeper, Emanuela, about it. I'm Amy Anderson, 35 years old, and I work as a full-time FX trader from home. I met my husband, Eric, who's 2 years older than me, at my old job. We worked at a small mail-order company. He worked in the pet food department, and I worked in cosmetics, answering customer calls. Our company didn't follow the labor rules, so we worked a lot of overtime, and usually stayed late. We'd go for drinks once a week to relax after work with some coworkers. At that time, even though we had good pay because of all the overtime, we didn't have time to enjoy it. The only thing we looked forward to was those weekly drinks to cope with how tired we were. I started dating Eric, and we got married 3 years ago. After marriage, I quit my job and stayed home for a while. Then, I started looking for something I could do at home and found FX trading. I read a lot of books, researched online, and studied FX trading. It wasn't easy at first, but I kept learning and eventually became good at it. I bought a computer just for FX trading, opened a trading account, and practiced with small amounts. Over time, I developed my own way of trading and started earning steadily. But my in-laws, Nicholas and Julia, didn't understand what I was doing. Last year, Nicholas retired, and they were living in public housing. Eric invited them to live with us in our 3-bedroom apartment because he thought it would be hard for them to live on their pension alone. I pay the rent for our apartment, and while Eric works, I cover all the living expenses since I started making money with FX trading. Mom, Dad, Amy will take care of the bills, so you don't have to worry, Eric told them. Thank you, Amy, that's very kind, they replied. And that's how I ended up living with Eric's parents. I don't do the housework myself. Emanuela, our housekeeper, does everything. She's a great cook and helps with all the chores, which gives me more time to study FX trading and write about it. But Nicholas and Julia didn't like that. When they first moved in, they were polite and thankful, but after 2 months, they started saying, "What's the point of having a wife who just stays home and doesn't do any housework? She just sits in front of the computer all day. FX trading is just gambling." They didn't say it directly to me, but I could tell they were talking to Eric about it. Since I was paying for everything, Eric no longer needed to worry about the bills, and he started spending more on his clothes. He always wore custom suits, carried expensive bags, and wore designer shoes. He loved fashion and seemed happy, so he defended me when his parents complained about my work. But recently, Eric's attitude changed. "Amy, you're always sitting in front of the computer, and you never wear makeup or dress up. Don't you think that's boring and unattractive? Do I really need to wear makeup and fancy clothes when I'm just staying at home? It might be fine for you, but it's not good enough for me." "What do you mean not good enough for you? Are you saying I'm not good enough because I don't dress up?" "Exactly. Don't you ever want to dress up for me so I'm more attracted to you?" "Attracted to me? Are you serious? Do I need to dress up for you to find me attractive?" After that conversation, Eric started complaining about me to his parents. One evening, after dinner, I overheard this. "Amy always makes fun of us. She makes us feel bad." "Yeah, it feels like she thinks we're poor just because we used to live in public housing." "I agree, I feel that way too. And the fact that she doesn't do any housework shows she thinks she's better than us. She's just gambling to make money and acts so bossy about it." Anyone can do FX trading. Amy just studied a little on her own and started earning $80,000 a month. I could do that too. "You're right, Eric, you could do it too." I don't like how she acts so arrogant when she's just making money by gambling. She doesn't work hard for it. Anyone can do what she's doing. Plus, she's not even cute. I don't know who she thinks she is. I was working from home, but Eric and I used to have breakfast together before he left for work. Eric still works at the same company we both used to work for, so he comes home late. We should have valued breakfast as our time together, but Eric started skipping it, saying, "Just eat breakfast on the way." Seeing this, Julia said, "Eric's getting tired of you because you don't even do your duties as a wife. That's what happens, Amy." She said this in a sarcastic way. "What do you mean duties as a wife, Julia? If you mean housework, hasn't Emanuela done it all perfectly? These so-called duties as a wife are outdated." "Outdated? We value the old customs in our family. Your grandmother-in-law used to discipline me a lot." "Discipline? Isn't it enough if the housework is done? I'm paying Emanuela enough for it. Do you think this is about money? Just because you're paying for everything, doesn't mean you can talk down to us. You shouldn't be bossy about it. Julia, who said this to me, seems to be spending a lot of money on socializing with people her own age in the apartment building now that she doesn't have to pay for living expenses. I sometimes see her going out with expensive brand bags that she must have bought. Nicholas spends all of his pension on golf. He's bought new clubs and has a golf bag right by the front door. I'm paying for everything, including the rent and all of their living expenses, and yet these people still act this way, even though I question their behavior. My in-laws had nowhere else to go, so I just put up with them for now. About a month after Eric stopped having breakfast with me, he started going on more business trips. He told me he was starting a new department at his company and was planning to import LEDs from Korea, so he had to travel there more often. One weekend, Eric was supposed to be in Korea on a business trip, but when I went out for dinner with my friend Lily at a fancy Italian restaurant, I saw Eric there with another woman. Lily pointed him out, saying, "Hey, Amy, isn't that your husband?" At first, I tried to convince myself it wasn't him, but it clearly was. Every time Eric said he was going to Korea, it meant he was spending the weekend with another woman. The woman with him was young, probably in her early 20s, much younger than Eric, who's 37. I remembered Eric asking me once, "Don't you want me to be attracted to you?" That made it clear to me, my husband was definitely cheating on me. The next day, I hired a private investigator to look into the affair. Lately, I had also been getting packages addressed to Julia at our house. "Julia, did you buy something again?" "Be quiet, Amy. Do I need your permission to buy anything?" "No, that's not what I mean." Julia had recently become obsessed with online shopping, buying expensive brand bags and jewelry. I was worried because there are many fake items sold online, and I didn't want her to get scammed. And I was right. One day, when Eric was at work, Julia came into my office and said, "Hey, Amy, come take a look at something." I followed her to the living room, where she was opening a package that had just arrived. "I bought 5 bags, they were cheap as a bundle," Julia explained. When I looked at the bags, I could tell they were fake. "Julia, you have to be careful when buying online, especially with high-end brands. There's a good chance they could be fake." I was shocked to see how much she'd paid for them. "What should I do with these 5 bags?" she asked. "I think you should contact the seller and see if they have a return policy." She tried to reach out to the seller, but there was no phone number or working contact details. When she finally found a number, it was out of service. Julia had spent $5,000 on 5 fake bags. The website seemed legitimate at first, but the prices were too low to be true. She paid by bank transfer, and there was no way to reverse the payment through her credit card. "Julia, you really have to be careful. If the price is too good to be true, it probably is. You need to think carefully before buying anything, especially online." Don't act like I don't know what I'm talking about, Amy. It's not that. You just wasted money. Paying $5,000 for fake bags is ridiculous. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Since talking didn't help, I went back to my room to work. Then, after dinner on Sunday, Nicholas suddenly told me to stop doing FX trading. He had gone golfing with a friend from his old job and heard about FX trading. He said, "I heard Forex trading is a scam." "Amy, are you making money by scamming people?" "What? How do you make money with FX trading?" "That sounds like what scammers do. I heard it's all a scam." "No, I'm not scamming anyone or making anyone invest in anything. I saw you using social media. That's what scammers use to trick people." "No, I just write a blog for people who are interested in FX trading. There's nothing scammy about it." "You think you can fool me just because I don't know anything about computers?" "No, I'm not fooling or scamming you. Dad thinks you're scamming because it looks too easy for you to make money, Amy. It's not easy money, Eric. I've told you this before. It's not that simple. You just learned a little and now you're making a lot. It must be easy. Meanwhile, I'm busting my ass at work, starting this new department." "What? Eric, I thought you were supporting me in my FX trading. Do you want me to stop doing FX trading? If I do that, how will we pay for everything? We won't even be able to afford the rent." "I can pay the rent myself, since I'm the full-time FX trader." Eric and his family were living off the lifestyle I paid for, yet they didn't seem grateful. They only complained about my FX trading. The next day, I got the results from the private investigator I had hired. It turned out Eric was cheating on me. He was having an affair with a 25-year-old woman, 12 years younger than him. I didn't know her, but she worked with Eric at the company after I left. She'd gone on several business trips with him to Korea. For a few days, I thought about how to tell Eric. This would mean the end of our marriage, and a divorce. That same day, Emanuela made dinner for us. Just as she was leaving, Julia spoke up. Amy, I talked to Nicholas and Eric, and we don't like anything about you. We've decided to live on our own. I want you to leave. Eric hadn't come home from work yet. We don't want money that comes from your scams. We don't like how you act like you know everything. We've discussed it with Eric, and we've decided you should leave. I had a feeling this was coming. Fine then. Eric wasn't even home, which made it clear he didn't care about me anymore. I realized I didn't need to take care of their lives anymore, so I packed my bags and moved to a hotel. The divorce happened soon after that. Since I'd discovered Eric's affair during our marriage, I was able to file for alimony. I rented a one-bedroom apartment just for myself and moved in. I changed the lease on the old apartment where I lived with Eric to his name. 4 months later, I got a call from Eric. He said he wanted to talk and would come to my new apartment. I had a bad feeling when Eric showed up with Nicholas and Julia. Amy, we're sorry. We apologize for everything. Please come back and live with us, Eric said, sounding regretful. Nicholas and Julia quickly joined in, apologizing too. What is this? I asked, confused. Eric, looking down, explained that they couldn't afford the rent anymore. We're about to be evicted and have nowhere to go. Amy, please help us. What are you talking about? Eric went on to explain that after I left, his new department failed. The LEDs they imported were defective, with faulty sockets and bulbs about to fall off. They had to recall the entire shipment, which caused major problems. Eric was fired from his job. Trying to make money on his own, Eric invested in forex trading using his small savings, but lost it all by making bad trades. Nicholas tried to use his own savings to invest in stocks, but that didn't work either. They had no money for rent, and no way to move out. Eric begged, please help us, Amy. I was stunned. We're divorced. Eric. I know, but please, help us. What happened to your young girlfriend? When I lost my job, I couldn't get in touch with her anymore. Yeah, why would she stay with someone who got fired? Eric continued to beg, Amy, you're all I have left. Please, let's get remarried. Let's start over. Nicholas and Julia also joined in, apologizing for their behavior, admitting they were wrong, and asking for another chance. Please, Amy, they said, let's be a family again. I was firm. No way in hell I'm doing that. If you don't leave, I'll call the police. They continued to argue, but when I threatened the police, they finally left. After that, Eric called me twice more, asking me to get back together, but I refused both times. I didn't care what happened to him or his parents anymore. Spending so much time alone, working as a trader, I realized it was time to start dating again. I talked to Lily, and she said she'd introduce me to someone. Tomorrow, I'm meeting her and her friend. I'm looking forward to it and to starting a new chapter in my life.
The ultrasound image trembled in my hands, its grainy black and white shapes holding all my dreams. 2 heartbeats, mine racing, and somewhere in that fuzzy constellation, my baby's steady rhythm. After 3 years of trying, of temperature charts and disappointments, there it was. Life. I want a divorce. Jason's voice cut through my moment like a blade. I looked up from the image, certain I'd misheard. My husband stood by our bedroom window, his back to me, shoulders rigid beneath his expensive suit. What did you say? You heard me, Fiona. He turned, and I saw nothing of the man I'd married in his eyes. I never wanted this. Any of it. The image crumpled slightly in my grip. Any of what? A baby. A family. This whole domestic fantasy you've been chasing. He gestured vaguely at our bedroom, at the home we'd built together. I played along because it made you happy, but I can't do it anymore. My throat closed up. Played along? For 8 years? Look, I've got a chance at partnership. Real partnership, not just senior associate. I can't be tied down with a kid right now. It's not in my plans. I pressed my hand against my still flat stomach. Our child isn't in your plans? Don't make this harder than it needs to be. He loosened his tie, a nervous habit I'd once found endearing. I've already talked to my lawyer. You can keep the house. I'll pay support, whatever's fair. But I'm done playing house. The room spun slightly. I sat on the edge of our bed, the same bed where we'd made this baby, where he'd held me through failed attempts and crushing disappointments. When what? When did you decide our marriage was just playing house? He checked his watch, impatient. Does it matter? The papers will be ready tomorrow. I'm staying at the Marriott until I find a place. Tomorrow? The word came out as a whisper. You've planned this. Of course I planned it. I'm not an idiot. He grabbed a pre-packed suitcase from the closet, one I hadn't even noticed was there. I knew you'd get emotional about this. Emotional. Like my feelings were an inconvenience, a feminine weakness he had to manage. I smoothed out the ultrasound image, trying to focus on that tiny heartbeat. Who is she? His pause told me everything. That's not important. 8 years of marriage, and you can't even give me the truth? Fine. Her name is Lily. She understands my ambitions. She doesn't need this. He waved at me, at my stomach, at our life together. I stood up, surprising myself with how steady my legs felt. Get out. Fiona. Get out. Each word was a bullet. Your lawyer can call mine. But right now, get out of my house. He grabbed his suitcase, pausing at the door. I never meant to hurt you. I laughed, a harsh sound that scared even me. Yes, you did. You meant to hurt me less, maybe. But you knew exactly what you were doing. After he left, I sat in the silence of our bedroom, my bedroom now, and looked at the ultrasound again. My baby. My child. The tears finally came, but with them came something else, steel in my spine, ice in my veins. It's just us now, little one, I whispered to the image. But I promise you this, you will never doubt that you're wanted. You will never wonder if you're enough. And your father? I took a deep breath. Your father will learn that some games have consequences. I placed the ultrasound on my nightstand and picked up my phone. My parents would be my first call. They'd always warned me about Jason's charm hiding something darker. Then my lawyer. Then my doctor. I had a life to rebuild, and a child to protect. The game wasn't over. It was just beginning. My parents' kitchen smelled exactly as it had when I was a child: cinnamon, coffee, and my mother's endless supply of fresh-baked bread. The familiar scent should have been comforting. Instead, it made my throat tight with unshed tears. He did what? My father's coffee cup hit the table hard enough to splash. That spineless little Thomas. My mother's hand covered his, a gentle restraint. She turned to me, her eyes sharp despite her soft voice. When did this happen, sweetheart? Yesterday. I traced the wood grain of their kitchen table, the same one I'd done my homework on decades ago. He had it all planned out. Lawyer, new apartment, everything. And the baby? Mother's grip tightened on father's hand. Doesn't want anything to do with either of us. The words tasted bitter. He's got his career to think about, apparently. Father pushed back from the table, pacing the kitchen like a caged bear. 8 years. 8 years we welcomed that man into our family, and this is how he... Thomas, please. Mother's voice carried that steel I remembered from childhood arguments. This isn't helping. I pulled out the ultrasound image, already creased from constant handling, and placed it on the table. Mother's breath caught. Oh, darling. She moved to my side, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. Your room is exactly as you left it. I can't stay here. The words came out faster than I intended. I mean, I appreciate it, but... Nonsense. Father stopped pacing. The house is too big for just us anyway. And you'll need help with the baby. I need to stand on my own feet. I straightened my spine, meeting their concerned gazes. Jason's offering to let me keep the house. With the divorce settlement and my savings, I can manage the mortgage. The house? Mother's tone sharpened. The house you both chose? Where you plan to raise your family? Darling, every room will remind you of him. She was right, of course. I'd spent the night staring at the ceiling, remembering every moment, every promise, every lie. Then I'll sell it. Start fresh somewhere else. You don't have to decide everything today. Mother squeezed my shoulder. Stay with us for a while. Clear your head. A knock at the front door interrupted my response. Father went to answer it, his footsteps heavy with purpose. Margaret? His voice carried an odd note. You might want to come here. Mother exchanged a look with me before heading to the door. I followed, curious despite myself. Lily Carter stood on our porch, looking nothing like the polished photos I'd found on social media last night. Her mascara was smeared, her designer clothes rumpled. I'm so sorry, she blurted before anyone could speak. I didn't know, I swear I didn't know he was married when we met. He told me you were separated, that the divorce was almost final. How long? The question came out calmer than I felt. She flinched. 6 months. 6 months. While I was tracking ovulation and praying for a miracle, my husband was. I pressed a hand to my stomach, suddenly nauseated. I found out about the baby from his phone. Lily's voice cracked. He left it unlocked, and I saw the messages from his lawyer. About the divorce, about you being pregnant. I couldn't. I had to. You had to what? Mother's voice could have frozen hell. Tell you I'm sorry. And warn you. Lily glanced over her shoulder nervously. He's not just leaving. He's transferring all his assets. Moving them offshore. He's planning to leave me with nothing. The pieces clicked into place. The house offer, the quick divorce. He's running. Father's hand gripped the doorframe. Over my dead body. I studied Lily, young, beautiful, exactly Jason's type. But there was something in her eyes, something familiar. The same betrayal I felt burning in my chest. Thank you, I said quietly. For telling me. She nodded once, then hurried back to her car. We watched her drive away in silence. Well, Mother said finally. I believe I'll make some more coffee. We have planning to do. I followed them back to the kitchen, my mind racing. Jason thought he could discard us like unwanted baggage. He was about to learn how wrong he was. The game wasn't just beginning. It was changing entirely. The box of memories sat on my bedroom floor like a time bomb. 8 years of photographs, letters, and mementos, all lies wrapped in pretty paper. My hands shook as I lifted the lid. My phone buzzed. Another message from Jason's lawyer. I ignored it, just like I'd ignored the last 6. Let them wait. I had more pressing matters to attend to. The first photo showed our wedding day. Jason's perfect smile, my radiant happiness. I remembered the photographer commenting on how photogenic we were, how in love we looked. Now I could see what I'd missed then, the calculated gleam in Jason's eyes, the way his hand gripped my waist like a possession. The doorbell rang. I ignored that too. Deeper in the box, I found the fertility clinic receipts. 3 years of treatments, each one more expensive than the last. Each one paid for from my inheritance. While Jason's salary went to investing in our future. I wondered now what, or who, that future had really included. The doorbell rang again, more insistent this time. Go away. I shouted, knowing they couldn't hear me upstairs. But the ringing continued, followed by heavy knocking. Cursing, I stormed downstairs, ready to tell Jason's lawyer exactly where they could shove their settlement papers. But when I yanked open the door, it wasn't a lawyer standing there. It was Henry Carter. Lily's father. Miss Blake. His police training showed in his stance, in the careful way he assessed me. "May I come in? There are things you need to know." I should have said no. Should have shut the door and gone back to my box of lies. Instead, I stepped aside. Henry moved through my house like he was cataloging evidence, his eyes taking in every detail. "Lily told me she came to see you yesterday." I crossed my arms. She seemed upset. She should be. She's not the first. He turned to face me. "There were others before her. Before you, even." The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. "What?" "Jason Blake has a pattern." Henry's voice carried the weight of certainty. "He finds women with money or potential. Convinces them to invest in his schemes. Then he disappears with everything." A laugh bubbled up, bitter as poison. "Let me guess, offshore accounts?" "Among other things." Henry pulled out his phone, showing me a series of documents. I'd been tracking him since he started dating Lily. His previous victims never pressed charges, too embarrassed, too afraid of scandal. "But you're different." "Because I'm pregnant." "Because you have proof." He gestured around the house. "Financial records. Joint accounts. And most importantly, you have witnesses to his character and behavior." My mind raced. Lily. She's willing to testify. About the affair, about his plans to leave the country. Henry's expression hardened. "He's done this to 5 other women, Miss Blake. 5 lives destroyed because no one stopped him." I sank onto the couch, my hand instinctively covering my stomach. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because my daughter made a mistake getting involved with him, but she's trying to make it right. And because you're in a position to end this cycle." He sat across from me. "But we need to move fast. Before he transfers everything overseas." Upstairs, my box of memories waited. 8 years of carefully constructed lies, all leading to this moment. "What do you need me to do?" "File charges. Today." "My old partner handles financial crimes. He can freeze Jason's accounts before he moves anything else." I thought of the ultrasound picture, of the baby who would never know their father's love. Of the other women who'd trusted Jason, only to be left with nothing. "Okay." I stood up, steel replacing the shock in my spine. "Let's end this." Henry nodded, already dialing his phone. As he spoke to his former partner, I climbed back upstairs to my box of memories. One by one, I fed the photos into the fireplace, watching Jason's perfect smile turn to ash. The game had changed again. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about justice, not just for me and my baby, but for all the women who'd come before. And this time, Jason wouldn't know what hit him until it was too late. The morning sickness hit just as I was reviewing resumes at my parents' kitchen table. 4 months pregnant, and still no job. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent years building Jason's career, and now I couldn't even land an entry-level position. My phone buzzed. Henry Carter's name flashed on the screen. "They've frozen his accounts," Henry said without preamble. But we were too late for some of it. He'd already moved close to 2 million offshore. The room spun, and not from morning sickness. 2 million. That's impossible. We never had that much. It wasn't just your money. His voice hardened. The other women, the investments he convinced them to make, he's been planning this for years. I gripped the edge of the table. What about the house? Mortgaged to the hilt. He took out 3 equity loans in the past year alone. The perfect house, the perfect life, all built on quicksand. He knew. Even when we were trying for a baby, he knew he was leaving. A knock at the door interrupted Henry's response. My mother answered it, and I heard raised voices in the hallway. "I need to go," I told Henry, ending the call as Jason stormed into the kitchen. "What the hell did you do?" His perfect facade had cracked, showing something ugly underneath. Do you have any idea what you've done? My mother appeared behind him, phone in hand. I'm calling the police. No. I stood, one hand protectively over my stomach. Let him speak. I want to hear his explanation. Explanation? Jason laughed, a harsh sound. You froze my accounts. Destroyed years of work. For what? Revenge? Justice. The word tasted sweet. For every woman you've conned. Every life you've ruined. His expression shifted, becoming the charming mask I'd fallen for years ago. Sweetheart, you don't understand. Those investments were legitimate. I was building something for us, for our future. Don't. My voice shook. Don't you dare pretend this was for us. Henry Carter showed me everything. Henry Carter? Jason's mask slipped again. What does Lily's father have to do with this? He's a retired detective. Specialized in financial crimes. I watched the color drain from Jason's face. Did you know that? Did you check before you started dating his daughter? You stupid bitch. He stepped toward me, hands clenched. You have no idea what you've done. My mother moved between us. Get out of my house. This isn't over. Jason's eyes locked on mine. You think you're protecting that baby? You've just made sure it'll grow up with nothing. Better nothing than your poison. The words came from somewhere deep inside, somewhere that had been silent too long. Better alone than raised by a liar and a thief. He reached for me, but another voice cut through the tension. Touch her, and it's assault charges on top of fraud. Henry Carter stood in the doorway, badge in hand. Your choice, Blake. Jason's arm dropped. He looked between us, calculating odds like he always did. Finally, he stepped back. You'll regret this, he said softly. Both of you. After he left, my legs gave out. I sank into a chair, trembling. Are you all right? Mother's hand was cool on my forehead. No. I looked up at Henry. But I will be. What happens now? Now? Henry sat across from me. Now we build a case. Every victim, every fraudulent investment, every false promise. It won't be easy. Some women won't want to come forward. But some will. I thought of Lily, of her smeared mascara and shaking hands. Some of us are tired of being victims. It could take months, Henry warned. Maybe years. I pressed my hand against my growing belly, feeling the flutter of movement. Then we better get started. This baby deserves to be born into a world where their father can't hurt anyone else. Mother squeezed my shoulder. We'll help. Whatever you need. I nodded, my mind already racing ahead. Jason thought he'd left me with nothing. But he'd given me something invaluable, a purpose. A mission. And I would see it through, not just for my child, but for every woman who'd trusted him and lost everything. The game wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about justice. And justice, I was learning, was a dish best served methodically. The contraction started during a meeting with Henry and the prosecutor. 38 weeks pregnant, and my son chose this moment to make his entrance. Perfect timing, just like his father. We need to get you to the hospital, Henry said, already reaching for his keys. I gripped the edge of the conference table. Not yet. Finish telling me about the offshore accounts. The prosecutor, Sarah Chen, exchanged looks with Henry. The accounts can wait. No. Another contraction hit, stronger this time. Jason's hearing is tomorrow. I need to know everything. You need to have this baby, Henry countered. The hearing will proceed whether you're there or not. A sharp knock interrupted us. The door opened, revealing Lily, her face pale. He's gone. The room went silent. My contraction forgotten, I straightened. What do you mean, gone? Jason. Lily's voice cracked. He emptied our joint accounts this morning. Left a note saying he was sorry, that he never meant to hurt anyone. She laughed bitterly. As if that makes it better. The prosecutor shuffled through her papers. The court order. Doesn't matter. Lily tossed her phone onto the table. He's already out of the country. Dubai, probably. He always talked about Dubai. Another contraction ripped through me, this one bringing me to my knees. Through the haze of pain, I heard voices arguing, phones ringing, plans unraveling. Hospital, I gasped. Now. The next hours blurred together. Contractions, monitors beeping, nurses coming and going. My parents arrived, then Henry, then more lawyers. Through it all, one thought kept circling, Jason had won. Again. Push, the doctor ordered, and I did, channeling all my rage and frustration into bringing my son into the world. At 3:47 a.m., Oliver Thomas Blake announced his arrival with a cry that seemed to shake the walls. They placed him on my chest, this tiny person who'd been my anchor through the storm, and everything else fell away. "Hello, little one," I whispered. "I've been waiting for you." Hours later, when the room had quieted and my parents had gone home to rest, Henry appeared in the doorway. "You should be resting," he said, but his expression told me there was news. "Tell me." He sat heavily in the visitor's chair. Interpol flagged his passport in Singapore. He's moving money through shell companies, trying to stay ahead of the freeze orders. I looked down at Oliver, peaceful in his hospital bassinet. He planned this all along. The hearing, the negotiations, it was just buying time. Yes. Henry's voice softened. "I'm sorry, Fiona. We thought we had him cornered. Don't apologize." I touched Oliver's tiny hand, marveling at his perfect fingers. "We'll find him. It could take years. International cases. Then it takes years." Something shifted inside me, a resolve hardening into certainty. He thinks having a baby means I'll give up, that I'll be too busy with diapers and midnight feedings to pursue him. Won't you be? I met Henry's gaze. Every night when I feed my son, I'll be planning. Every diaper I change will remind me why I'm fighting. And one day, when Oliver's old enough to understand, I'll tell him how his father tried to steal his future, and how we got it back. Henry studied me for a long moment. "This isn't just about the money anymore, is it?" It never was. I watched Oliver's chest rise and fall with his tiny breaths. "It's about justice. For every woman he betrayed, every child he abandoned. He doesn't get to win just because he ran." "What do you need from me?" "Everything you know about international finance law." I smiled, feeling stronger than I had in months. "And maybe some coffee. We have work to do." Henry nodded, understanding dawning in his eyes. "I'll make some calls." As he left, I lifted Oliver into my arms. "Your father thinks he's escaped, little one. But he doesn't understand what he's created. A mother's love isn't just soft and gentle, it's fierce and relentless. And I promise you this, he will answer for what he's done. Not just to me, but to everyone he's hurt." Oliver yawned, oblivious to the weight of the moment. But I felt it, this turning point where grief transformed into purpose. Jason had given me one final gift, a reason to never stop fighting. The game wasn't over. It had barely begun. 20 years vanished in an instant when I saw him across the restaurant. Jason hadn't aged well, his hair had grayed at the temples, and his once athletic frame had softened. But that smile, that practiced charm as he worked the room, hadn't changed at all. "Mom?" Oliver's voice pulled me back. My son, our son, sat across from me, celebrating his 20th birthday in the same restaurant where Jason had proposed all those years ago. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Before I could respond, Jason turned. Our eyes met, and the world stopped spinning. Recognition flickered across his face, followed by something else, calculation. Always calculating. He started walking toward our table. "Oliver," I said quietly, "whatever happens next, remember that I love you." "Mom, what?" Well. Jason's voice was exactly as I remembered. "Fiona Blake. You look comfortable." I felt Oliver tense beside me. "And you look like a man who's been running for 20 years. Jason's smile didn't waver. "Is this him? Is this my boy? I'm not your anything." Oliver's voice carried the same steel I'd heard in my own all those years ago. "And this is a private dinner. Can't a father want to know his son?" Jason pulled up a chair uninvited. "We have so much to catch up on." "Like the 2 million you stole?" I kept my voice steady. "Or the other families you destroyed?" His expression hardened. "Still bitter, Fiona? After all these years?" "Not bitter." I met his gaze. Just patient. Understanding dawned in his eyes. He glanced around the restaurant, probably noting the exits. "You knew I'd be here. This restaurant's new owner is an interesting woman." I smiled. "Lily sends her regards." Jason's charm cracked. "You've been tracking me for 20 years. Oliver's voice was cold. "Every shell company, every false identity. Did you really think Mom would just give up?" "Henry Carter's been teaching him well," I added. "He has quite a talent for financial forensics." Jason stood abruptly, but 2 men in suits appeared at his shoulders. "Sir," one said quietly, "please come with us. You can't prove anything." Jason's voice shook slightly. "It's been too long. The statute of limitations doesn't apply to ongoing fraud." Oliver stood, and I saw Jason register how tall his son had grown, how confident he was. "Which you've been committing across 3 continents. Did you think Dubai would protect you forever? This is what you taught him?" Jason spat at me. "To betray his own father? No." I stood too, feeling stronger than I had in years. "I taught him about justice. About consequences. About being a man who keeps his promises. Mom taught me everything you didn't." Oliver's words cut like knives. "Including how to wait for the right moment." The agents led Jason away, his protests fading into the murmur of the restaurant. I sank back into my chair, 20 years of tension draining away. "Are you okay?" Oliver touched my hand. I thought I'd feel different. I watched through the window as they put Jason in a car. More satisfied, maybe. Or vindicated. "What do you feel?" "Tired." I turned back to my son, my brilliant, compassionate son who'd grown up without a father but never without love. And a little sad. For him, mostly. He never knew what he gave up. His choice. Oliver squeezed my hand. "Not yours." My phone buzzed, a message from Henry. More of Jason's victims were coming forward, encouraged by his arrest. The house of cards was finally falling. "Happy birthday, sweetheart." I managed a smile. "I'm sorry it turned out like this." "Don't be." Oliver's expression was serious. "This was the best gift you could have given me. Not revenge, justice. For all of us." I watched my son, so different from his father, so much more than I'd ever dreamed possible, and felt the weight of 2 decades begin to lift. Jason was finally facing consequences, but that wasn't what mattered most. What mattered was sitting across from me, strong and whole despite everything. The game was ending, but something else was beginning. Something that felt a lot like freedom. "Let's order dessert," I said. "We have a lot to celebrate." The prison visiting room smelled of disinfectant and desperation. Jason sat across from me, his orange jumpsuit a jarring contrast to the designer suits he'd once worn. 3 weeks in custody had stripped away his polish, leaving something raw and unfamiliar beneath. "You're my last hope, Fiona." His voice cracked. "They're talking 20 years. 20 years of my life, gone. Like the 20 years you stole from others? I kept my voice neutral, watching his hands fidget on the table. I can make it right. He leaned forward, that old charm struggling to surface. I know where the money is. All of it. Help me make a deal, and everyone gets paid back. Everyone except Oliver. He flinched. I never meant to get caught. I finished. Or to have your son help bring you down. He's my son too. Anger flashed across his face. You turned him against me. No, Jason. You did that yourself. I pulled out a folder, copies of documents Lily had gathered over years. Just like you did with every other family you destroyed. His eyes fixed on the folder. Lily gave you those? She's been collecting evidence since before your wedding. Smart woman. I smiled slightly. She learned from your previous wives. Previous, understanding dawned in his eyes. Sarah Chen. The prosecutor. Your second wife. Though you never actually divorced her before marrying Lily, did you? I laid out photos, Jason with different women, different names. Different lives. Henry helped us find them all. 7 marriages, Jason. 7 families. It wasn't personal. Sweat beaded on his forehead. It was business. Investment opportunities. Tell that to the children. I pushed forward another photo, a group shot of kids ranging from teenagers to toddlers. Your children, Jason. All of them growing up without a father. He shoved back from the table. What do you want from me? Nothing. The word felt like freedom. I'm here because you asked to see me. Because you thought you could manipulate me one last time. Then why come? His mask cracked completely, showing genuine confusion. To show you what you threw away. I stood, gathering the photos. Oliver graduates law school next month. Top of his class. He's already been offered a position with the Financial Crimes Unit. Following in Henry's footsteps. Jason sneered. Playing hero? Being the man you never were. I met his gaze. The other kids? They're thriving too. Sarah's daughter is a doctor. Amanda's twins just started college. They all grew up strong, Jason. Not because of you, but because of the mothers who loved them enough to stay. Is that supposed to make me feel guilty? No. I headed for the door, then paused. It's supposed to make you understand what real wealth is. And why you'll always be poor. Fiona. His voice stopped me. I did love you. In the beginning. I turned back one last time. No, Jason. You loved what I could give you. There's a difference. What happens now? Now? I thought of Oliver, of the family we'd built without Jason. Now you face justice. Not just legal justice, but the kind that comes from knowing your son chose to be everything you're not. He'll regret it. Jason's final attempt at control. One day, he'll understand why I did what I did. No. I smiled, feeling decades of weight lift from my shoulders. He already understands. That's why he helped stop you. As I left the prison, my phone buzzed. A message from Oliver. Mom, dinner at Grandma and Grandpa's tonight. Henry and Lily are coming too. Family meeting about the foundation. The foundation, Oliver's idea to help families affected by financial fraud. Born from our pain, but growing into something beautiful. Something healing. I texted back, on my way. Love you. The game was truly over now. Jason would spend years in prison, but we'd spend them building something he could never understand, a legacy of justice, compassion, and unbreakable family bonds. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living well, loving deeply, and letting go of the ghosts that once haunted us. I got in my car and headed home, toward the family that had chosen to stay, to fight, to love. toward the future we'd built from the ashes of Jason's betrayal. And I didn't look back once. My parents' backyard glowed with string lights, the summer evening perfect for celebrating Oliver's law school graduation. The faces around the table had changed over the years. Henry's hair had gone completely white, Lily had found peace in her new life. And my parents moved a bit slower, but the love remained constant. Oliver stood at the head of the table, champagne glass in hand. The Blake Carter Foundation helped its 100th family this week. Applause rippled through our gathering. I watched my son, so tall, so sure of himself, and saw echoes of the baby I'd once promised to protect. But that's not why I called everyone together tonight. He reached into his pocket, producing an envelope. This came from the prison today. The air stilled. Henry leaned forward. Jason? He's dying. Oliver's voice stayed steady. Cancer. He wants to make amends, tell the truth about everything. After all this time? Lily's hand trembled as she reached for her water glass. He claims he has records of other victims we never found. Oliver met my eyes. He'll only talk to me. The old anger stirred, but it felt distant now, like thunder from a storm that had long passed. What are you thinking? I'm thinking about that first family we helped. Oliver sat beside me. Remember? The mother with 3 kids, living in her car after her husband emptied their accounts? I nodded. How could I forget? She'd reminded me so much of myself. We gave her justice, but more importantly, we gave her hope. He spread the foundation's latest reports across the table. Every person we've helped is another chain broken, another cycle ended. And now Jason wants to help break more chains? Henry's skepticism was clear. I don't think he wants to help anyone. Oliver's smile held a wisdom beyond his years. I think he wants to die feeling less guilty. But his motives don't matter, the truth does. My mother reached across the table, squeezing my hand. What do you think, sweetheart? I looked around at my family, not bound by blood or law, but by choice and love. At Henry, who'd taught Oliver to fight injustice with intelligence rather than anger. At Lily, who'd turned her pain into purpose. At my parents, whose unwavering support had given me strength when I had none. I think, I said slowly, that revenge was never the point. Justice was never about punishing Jason, it was about helping others heal. Oliver nodded. That's why I'm going to see him. Not for him, but for the families who still need answers. We'll go with you, Henry said, and Lily nodded in agreement. No. Oliver's voice was gentle but firm. I need to do this alone. Mom taught me that strength isn't about carrying burdens alone, but sometimes we have to face our ghosts by ourselves. I touched the empty chair beside me, the one we'd started leaving empty at family gatherings, not for Jason, but as a reminder of why we did this work. Your father gave us an unexpected gift, Oliver. He showed us what family isn't, so we could build what it should be. To family, my father raised his glass, in all its forms. As glasses clinked and conversation resumed, Oliver pulled me aside. Are you really okay with this, Mom? I looked at my son, this remarkable man who'd taken our pain and transformed it into purpose. I'm more than okay. I'm proud. Not because you're facing Jason, but because you're doing it for the right reasons. I learned from the best. He hugged me, and for a moment I felt the echo of that tiny baby I'd once promised to protect. The string lights swayed in the evening breeze, casting shifting shadows across our gathering. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new stories of betrayal to unravel, new families to help. But tonight, in this garden filled with love and laughter, I finally understood, sometimes the greatest victory isn't in winning the game, but in changing its rules entirely. And we had done exactly that.
I never expected my life to unravel over a post-it note. You know those small yellow squares people use for quick reminders? Yeah, one of those was about to turn my world upside down. My name is Jamie, and until last Tuesday, I thought I had it all figured out. Great career, loving husband, and the kind of life that made other people wonder how I managed to keep all the plates spinning. Spoiler alert, I didn't. I just returned from a 3-day business trip to Chicago, dragging my wheeled suitcase through our quiet house at 11 p.m. The lights were off, except for the dim glow of the kitchen under-cabinet lighting we always left on. That's when I saw it, a yellow square stuck to the refrigerator door. Need some time to think. Don't wait up. 8 words. That's all Ethan left me after 12 years together, 5 of them married. I stood there in my wrinkled blazer, still wearing my uncomfortable heels, staring at his handwriting until the letters started to blur. Ethan. I called out anyway, my voice echoing through our empty house. No response, of course. Just the quiet hum of the refrigerator and my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. I pulled out my phone and dialed his number. It rang once, twice, then went straight to voicemail. Hey, it's Ethan. Leave a message. Hey, just got home. Got your note. Call me when you can. I tried to keep my voice casual, like I wasn't standing in our dark kitchen at nearly midnight, talking to his voicemail while my stomach tied itself in knots. I kicked off my heels and walked through the house, flipping on lights as I went. Everything looked normal, almost too normal. His laptop was missing from his usual spot on the coffee table, but otherwise, there were no signs of. What was I even looking for? My phone buzzed, and I nearly dropped it in my rush to check the screen. But it was just a text from Helen, my mother-in-law. Hope you had a safe flight home, sweetheart. Lunch tomorrow. I stared at her message, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. Helen had been more of a mother to me than my own in the past few years. She'd know if something was wrong with Ethan, wouldn't she? Instead of replying, I walked upstairs to our bedroom. Ethan's side of the closet looked untouched, his suits hanging in their usual order. His dresser drawers were closed, his watch still on the nightstand. Everything seemed fine, except for the gnawing feeling in my gut that nothing was fine at all. I changed into one of his old t-shirts, a habit I'd picked up years ago, and sat on our bed, scrolling through my phone. No new messages from Ethan. No missed calls. Just that stupid yellow post-it note downstairs, mocking me with its vagueness. The last time I'd seen him was Sunday morning, before I left for my flight. We'd had coffee together, talked about his mother's upcoming doctor's appointment, made plans for the weekend. Everything had seemed normal. Hadn't it? But now that I thought about it, there had been something off in his smile when he kissed me goodbye. A hesitation in his hug that I'd brushed off as early morning sluggishness. The way he'd lingered in the doorway watching me load my suitcase into the Uber. My phone buzzed again, another text from Helen. Ethan mentioned he might be working late this week. Everything okay? I felt my chest tighten. Working late? Since when did Ethan work late? As an IT consultant, he usually kept regular hours, often working from home. Something wasn't adding up. I typed back quickly, just got home. Everything's fine. Lunch tomorrow sounds great. But as I lay there in our too-empty bed, staring at the ceiling fan slowly spinning above me, I knew I was lying. Nothing was fine. That little yellow post-it note was just the beginning, and somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew our life together was about to change forever. I just didn't know how much. The hospital corridor smelled like artificial lemons and broken promises. I'd come straight from work to visit Helen, still wearing my power suit like some kind of corporate armor. The text from the hospital had arrived during my morning meeting. Helen had been admitted after a bad fall. Jamie, sweetheart. Helen's face lit up as I entered her room, though I could see the pain behind her smile. She was propped up against stark white pillows, looking smaller than usual in the hospital bed. You didn't have to rush over. Of course I did. I leaned down to hug her, careful of the 4 in her arm. Have you heard from Ethan? I tried calling him. A flicker of something, confusion, concern, crossed Helen's face. He stopped by briefly this morning. Said he had some work emergency. She paused, studying my face. Is everything all right between you two? I busied myself arranging the flowers I'd brought, buying time to steady my voice. Why do you ask? Mother's intuition, maybe. Helen reached for my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. He seems distracted lately. Not himself. He left me a note last night, I admitted, sinking into the visitor's chair. Said he needed time to think. Hasn't been home since. Helen's monitor beeped steadily in the background as she processed this. That doesn't sound like my son. No, I agreed. It doesn't. My phone buzzed, a text from Ethan, sorry about last night. Crazy work situation. Talk soon. I showed Helen the message. She frowned, her fingers tightening around mine. Jamie, there's something. The door opened, and a nurse walked in with Helen's medication. The moment shattered like glass, whatever Helen had been about to say lost in the routine of vital signs and pill cups. Mrs. Lark, how's your pain level? The nurse asked, checking Helen's chart. Oh, manageable, Helen said, but I saw her wince as she shifted position. Though I wouldn't say no to something stronger. While the nurse adjusted Helen's medication, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Greg. Hey, you guys free for dinner Friday? Megan's making her famous lasagna. I hesitated, thumb hovering over the keyboard. Greg and Megan had been our friends since college, but the thought of pretending everything was normal made my stomach churn. Who's that? Helen asked after the nurse left. Greg. Dinner invitation. Go, Helen insisted. You need to get out, not sit here watching me sleep. Besides. She paused, that same strange look crossing her face. Maybe Ethan will actually show up for that. Before I could respond, my phone rang, work calling. I stepped into the hallway to take it, watching through the window as Helen closed her eyes. Her face tight with pain that had nothing to do with her fall. When I returned, Helen was holding a small photo album I recognized from her bedside table at home. Look what Ethan brought this morning, she said, patting the bed beside her. Come see. I sat on the edge of her bed, and she opened the album. There we were, Ethan and me on our wedding day, both of us laughing at something off camera. I remembered that moment. Greg had tripped over his own feet trying to take the picture. You know what I see when I look at this? Helen asked softly. I see my son looking at you like you're his whole world. Helen. Let me finish. She turned the page. Another photo, this one from Christmas last year. Ethan and I in matching ugly sweaters, his arm around my waist. Something's wrong, isn't it? Something more than just a note. I stared at the photo, at our smiling faces, trying to pinpoint when things had started to change. I don't know, I admitted. But I'm going to find out. Helen closed the album, her hands trembling slightly. Jamie, there's something you should know about. Her monitor suddenly erupted in sharp beeps. Helen's face went pale, her hand clutching her chest. I lunged for the call button as she gasped for breath. Help! I shouted into the hallway. I need help in here. As medical staff rushed in, I was pushed aside, forced to watch helplessly as they worked on Helen. My phone buzzed again, another text from Ethan. But this one wasn't meant for me. Megan's lasagna sat untouched on my plate as I watched Ethan check his phone for the 1000th time that evening. We were at Greg and Megan's house for our usual Friday dinner, but nothing about this felt usual. Sorry, Ethan muttered, sliding his phone back into his pocket. Work stuff. On a Friday night? Greg raised an eyebrow. Man, they're working you too hard. I took a sip of wine, remembering the text I'd glimpsed on Ethan's phone at the hospital. The one that wasn't meant for me, miss you already. Can't wait until Friday. Jamie, how's Helen doing? Megan asked, refilling my glass without waiting for an answer. Her hand trembled slightly, spilling a few drops of red wine on the white tablecloth. Stable, I said, watching Megan dab at the stain with her napkin. The doctors say she can probably go home next week. That's great news. Greg smiled. We should all visit her this weekend. Ethan's phone buzzed again. He pushed back from the table. Sorry, I need to take this. As he walked onto the back porch, I noticed Megan's eyes following him. She quickly looked away when she caught me watching. So, Greg said, clearly trying to fill the awkward silence, anyone want dessert? Megan made tiramisu. I'll help you get it, Megan offered, practically jumping from her chair. Through the glass doors, I could see Ethan pacing, running his hand through his hair the way he did when he was stressed. His face was illuminated by his phone screen, and for a moment, I caught a glimpse of his expression, not stressed, but smiling. Jamie? Greg's voice snapped me back. You okay? Yeah, just. I gestured vaguely at my barely touched lasagna. Not very hungry. In the kitchen, I heard a glass shatter, followed by Megan's muffled curse. Greg rushed to help her, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the view of my husband having what was clearly not a work call. My phone buzzed, a text from Helen, doctors say I can have visitors tomorrow. Will you come? Bring Ethan if you can find him. The sliding door opened, and Ethan returned, slipping his phone away with that same secret smile. Sorry about that. Where's dessert? Megan dropped something, I said, studying his face. Everything okay with work? Yeah, just a server issue. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Nothing major. Greg and Megan returned with the tiramisu, but Megan's eyes were red, and she'd changed her blouse. Everything okay in there? I asked. Fine. Megan's voice was too bright. Just clumsy me, breaking things. As Greg served dessert, I watched the way Megan's hands shook, the way Ethan kept checking his phone under the table. The way neither of them would look directly at anyone else. Actually, I said, standing up, I should probably go. Helen texted about visiting tomorrow, and I need to review some work documents tonight. I'll stay and help clean up, Ethan said quickly. Too quickly. No, I replied, my voice steady despite my racing heart. You should come home. We need to talk. The room went silent. Greg looked between us, confusion clear on his face. Megan suddenly became very interested in her dessert. Can it wait? Ethan asked. I promised Greg I'd help him with his new gaming setup. Did you? I turned to Greg. Did he promise that? Greg shifted uncomfortably. We hadn't really. Right. I grabbed my purse. Thanks for dinner, Megan. The lasagna was delicious. Jamie, wait, Ethan started. No. I cut him off. Either come home now, or don't come home at all. Your choice. I walked out before anyone could respond, but through the front window, I saw Megan grab Ethan's arm, shaking her head slightly. He pulled away, but didn't follow me. In my car, I sat gripping the steering wheel, watching the house. The text from the hospital was still open on my phone, miss you already. Can't wait until Friday. Friday. Dinner at Greg and Megan's. My hands stopped shaking as a strange calm settled over me. Now I knew. Now I could plan. Helen had tried to warn me, I realized. Before her attack, she'd been about to tell me something. Something about her son, and possibly about the woman I'd thought was my friend. Well, they wanted to play games. Fine. Game on. Ethan didn't come home that night. Or the next. Our house felt like a museum of someone else's life, photos on walls, mixed up coffee mugs in the cabinet, his shoes still by the door. I spent Saturday morning in my home office, pretending to work while actually scrolling through months of phone records. The hospital called around noon. Jamie? Helen's voice was weak. Could you bring my gray cardigan from home? The one with the pearl buttons? Of course. I was already grabbing my keys. How are you feeling? Better now that I've seen Greg. There was a pause. He stopped by this morning. Alone. My hand froze on the doorknob. Greg came to see you. He seemed worried. Asked some strange questions about you and Ethan. I found Helen's cardigan in her bedroom closet, neatly hung next to other cardigans that all looked exactly the same to me. As I reached for it, something fell from the pocket, a small, leather-bound notebook. Jamie? Helen was still on the line. Are you there? Yeah, sorry. Just found your sweater. I picked up the notebook, recognizing Helen's careful handwriting. I'll be there soon. I hung up and opened the notebook. The first page was dated 3 months ago. Ethan came by today. Something's wrong, he's not himself. Mentioned trouble at work, but I know my son. This is different. When I asked about Jamie, he changed the subject. Megan dropped by later, asking about him. Said Greg was worried too. But the way she asked. My phone buzzed, a text from Greg, can we talk? Alone? I stared at the message, then back at Helen's notebook. The next entry was from 2 weeks ago. Saw them together at Carlton's cafe. They didn't see me. Ethan was holding her hand across the table. My heart breaks for Jamie. Should I tell her? Would she believe me? Another text from Greg, please. It's important. I texted back, coffee shop on 5th. 30 minutes. Greg was already there when I arrived, fidgeting with a paper napkin. He looked like he hadn't slept. I need to tell you something, he said as I sat down. About Megan. And Ethan. I know. He blinked. You do. Not everything. I placed Helen's notebook on the table. But enough. Greg stared at the notebook, then pushed his coffee aside. Last night, after you left. Megan confessed. They've been. He couldn't finish. How long? 6 months. His voice cracked. She says it's over, but the texts are still coming, I finished. The secret meetings. The lies. He nodded, looking destroyed. I found hotel receipts. Credit card statements. They were together when Helen had her attack. My coffee turned to acid in my stomach. What are you going to do? I don't know. Greg met my eyes. What are we going to do? Before I could answer, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number, back off. You don't want this fight. I showed it to Greg. His face hardened. That's Megan's work phone, he said. She thinks I don't know about it. Another text, some things are better left alone. For Helen's sake. My hands started shaking, not from fear, but rage. They were threatening Helen now. Greg, I said, my voice deadly calm, how good are you still with computers? Good enough. Why? I showed him the threatening texts. Because I think it's time we stop playing defense. He studied my face for a moment, then pulled out his laptop. What do you need? Everything. Bank records, emails, phone logs. Especially from their work accounts. I took Helen's notebook back, clutching it like a weapon. They want to play dirty. Let's show them what dirty really looks like. As Greg started typing, my phone buzzed one more time. A message from Helen. The doctors found something on my latest scan. We need to talk. Soon. I looked at Greg, then at the notebook, then at the threatening texts. Time was running out, and I had to choose, protect Helen, expose the truth, or take revenge. Maybe, with the right plan, I could do all three. The doctor's words hung in the air like smoke, stage 3 pancreatic cancer. Helen sat in her hospital bed, calm as ever. while I felt the room spin around me. How long have you known? I managed to ask. A few weeks. Helen reached for my hand. I didn't want to add to your troubles. My phone buzzed, another work email about the upcoming Thanksgiving conference in New York. I was supposed to give the keynote speech, a career-defining moment. The timing couldn't have been worse. Does Ethan know? Helen's silence was answer enough. She hadn't told him, and he hadn't been around to notice. I'll cancel my trip, I said. The conference can find another speaker. Absolutely not. Helen's grip tightened. I won't have you sacrificing your career. Ethan can take care of me. I almost laughed at that. Ethan, who hadn't been home in days. Ethan, who was too busy with Megan to visit his own mother in the hospital. My phone buzzed again. Greg this time, found something in their emails. You need to see this. Jamie? Helen's voice pulled me back. There's something else you should know. Before she could continue, Ethan walked in. He looked surprised to see me, like he'd been hoping to avoid exactly this scenario. Mom, he said, barely glancing my way. How are you feeling? Like I have cancer, Helen replied dryly. But you'd know that if you'd been here when the doctors explained everything. Ethan flinched. I've been busy with work? I finished for him. Strange, since Greg mentioned your company's been on holiday schedule this week. The tension in the room could have powered a small city. Ethan's phone chimed, that familiar sound that made my stomach turn. You should get that, I said. Might be important. Helen watched this exchange with knowing eyes. Ethan, why don't you get me some water? Once he left, Helen pulled something from under her pillow, an envelope. I wrote this weeks ago, when I first suspected. Everything. Don't open it yet. Wait until after Thanksgiving. Helen. Promise me. Her voice was steel. And promise you'll go to that conference. I have my reasons. My phone lit up with Greg's messages. Email trail shows hotel bookings. Financial transfers. They're planning something over Thanksgiving. Ethan returned with the water, and his phone chimed again. This time, I caught a glimpse of the screen. Everything's arranged for next week. Once she's in New York. The pieces clicked together like a terrible puzzle. They were waiting for me to leave town. Planning something while I was gone. I should go, I said, standing. Need to prepare for the conference. You're still going? Ethan asked too quickly. Of course. I smiled, channeling every business negotiation I'd ever conducted. It's important for my career. You'll take care of Helen, right? He nodded, relief visible on his face. Of course. I hugged Helen goodbye, feeling the envelope crinkle between us. I'll see you after Thanksgiving. In the hallway, I texted Greg, need a favor. How good are you at accessing security cameras? His response was immediate, already on it. What's the plan? I looked back through the hospital room window. Helen was showing Ethan her notebook, the decoy one I'd planted earlier, not the real one in my purse. Ethan was falling for it, just like he'd fall for my apparent departure for New York. They think I'm leaving town, I wrote to Greg. Let's give them exactly what they want. Another text from Megan's burner phone arrived, smart choice about the conference. Some distances are better kept. I clutched Helen's envelope, my decision crystallizing. They thought they were setting a trap, but they just walked into mine. One more thing, I texted Greg. Book me a hotel room in New York. Make sure everyone knows about it. Let them think they had me figured out. Let them think I was running away. Thanksgiving was going to be interesting this year. The security footage from our house played on Greg's laptop, showing Ethan and Megan entering at 2 a.m. I watched from my rental car parked across the street, where I'd been since supposedly leaving for New York yesterday. They're in your bedroom, Greg's voice crackled through my earpiece. Want me to kill the feed? No. My voice sounded strange, even to me. Keep recording. My phone lit up with a text from Helen's nurse, Mrs. Lark asking for you. Says it's urgent. I gripped the steering wheel harder, torn between two betrayals unfolding simultaneously. The one in my bedroom and the one at the hospital, where Ethan hadn't visited Helen once since I'd left. Jamie, Greg warned, they're accessing your home office computer. Of course they were. The fake financial documents I'd left there would keep them busy. What they didn't know was that every keystroke was being logged, every file access recorded. Another text from Helen's nurse, doctor says her condition is deteriorating rapidly. Greg, I said, send me the hospital's security feed. The split screen on my phone showed two scenes, my bedroom and Helen's hospital room. My husband and his lover rifling through my personal files while my mother-in-law lay alone, fighting for her life. Helen's envelope sat heavy in my jacket pocket, still unopened. Wait until after Thanksgiving, she'd said. But watching her now, alone in that hospital bed, I couldn't wait any longer. My hands shook as I opened it. My dearest Jamie. By now you know about Ethan and Megan. What you don't know is why I've been protecting them. The cancer isn't new, I've known for months. Ethan discovered something in the insurance paperwork. Something that could ruin everything. Your company's health insurance, which covers me as a dependent, has a clause about pre-existing conditions. If they discover I knew about the cancer before the policy took effect. The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. Helen had kept quiet about her diagnosis to protect my career, while Ethan and Megan had been using this information to. Movement in your office, Greg interrupted. They're accessing your work emails. On the hospital feed, Helen's monitors started beeping erratically. Medical staff rushed into her room. Jamie, Greg's voice was urgent, they're sending emails from your account. Something about insurance fraud. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. They weren't just having an affair, they were setting me up. Using Helen's condition to manufacture a fraud case against me. Once I was discredited and fired, Helen would lose her insurance coverage. My phone rang, the hospital's number. Mrs. Lark is asking for you, the nurse said. She's very agitated. The doctor says. In my bedroom, Ethan and Megan were celebrating, champagne in hand. My champagne. My bed. My life. The doctor says she may not make it through the night. I started the car, then stopped. If I went to the hospital, I'd lose the evidence I needed to stop them. If I stayed, I might lose Helen. Greg, I said, send everything to my lawyer. Everything. Already done. But Jamie, there's something else. Something in their emails about Helen's original diagnosis. The hospital feed showed Helen reaching for her phone, her hands shaking. My phone buzzed with her message. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I should have told you sooner. The insurance. It wasn't just about me. Check the dates on Ethan's first email to Megan. The day I got my diagnosis. The day your company announced your promotion. The day everything started falling apart. In my bedroom, Ethan raised his glass in a mock toast, unaware he was being recorded. Unaware that his mother was dying. Unaware that his carefully constructed plan was about to backfire. But as I sat there, watching both screens, I realized I couldn't win this one. Not completely. Whatever I chose, justice or mercy, revenge or protection, I would lose something precious. Helen's monitor flatlined. And I made my choice. I walked into my house exactly 36 minutes after Helen's heart stopped. The champagne bottle still sat empty on my bedroom floor, but Ethan and Megan had moved to the kitchen. I could hear their laughter floating up the stairs as I silently made my way to my office. My laptop was still open, emails drafted and ready to send that would destroy my career. Evidence of insurance fraud carefully constructed to look like I'd known about Helen's condition all along. Their perfect plan. I pressed send on my own email, the one containing every recorded minute of their betrayal, copied to the board of directors, HR, and Greg's lawyer. Then I walked downstairs. "You're supposed to be in New York," Ethan said, freezing with a wine glass halfway to his lips. Megan dropped her phone, face draining of color. "Helen's dead." My voice didn't shake. "She died alone because her son was too busy trying to destroy his wife to visit his dying mother." Ethan's face went through a series of emotions, shock, grief, guilt, before settling on something harder. "Jamie, whatever you think you know. I know everything." I pulled out my phone, playing the security footage of them in my office. Every email. Every meeting. Every plan to use Helen's illness to frame me for fraud. Megan stepped forward, hands raised. "We can explain." "Can you explain this?" I played Helen's final voice message, the one she'd recorded just before her heart gave out. Her voice filled the kitchen. "I'm sorry, Ethan. I told them everything. About the original diagnosis, about your plan with Megan. About the real insurance fraud, the one you committed 3 years ago." Ethan lunged for my phone, but I was ready. I stepped back, watching his face contort as his mother's confession continued. "You used my illness twice," Helen's voice accused. "Once to embezzle from your company, hiding the transactions under my medical bills. And now to frame Jamie when she got too close to discovering it." "Turn it off," Ethan growled. "Why?" "Afraid to hear how your mother spent her final hours making sure the truth came out." Megan grabbed her purse, heading for the door, but Greg was already there. He'd been waiting outside, and now he blocked the only exit. "Going somewhere?" he asked his wife. "The board has everything," I said, watching Ethan's face as it all crumbled around him. "The real fraud evidence. The affair. Helen's statement. They're probably reading it right now." Ethan's phone started ringing. Then Megan's. Then mine. "You don't understand," Ethan pleaded, suddenly desperate. "I did it for Mom. The insurance wouldn't cover her experimental treatments. So you stole the money," I finished. "I would have helped you, Ethan. We could have found another way." "And then what?" he spat. "Watch you play the hero while I remained the failing son. Watch my dying mother love you more than me." His words hung in the air, revealing the real betrayal, not just of our marriage, but of himself. My phone buzzed again, the hospital, asking about Helen's arrangements. In the end, she'd chosen me as her medical proxy, not Ethan. Her final act of trust. "The police will be here soon," Greg said quietly. "The board's filing charges." Megan started crying, but Ethan just stood there, staring at the phone still playing his mother's voice. His final message from her, and it was a testimony against him. "I could have forgiven the affair," I said, turning to leave. "But using your mother's death as a weapon? That's something Helen never forgave you for, and neither will I." "Jamie, wait," Ethan called out, but I was already walking away. Outside, the November air was sharp with coming snow. My phone showed dozens of missed calls, the board, the police, the hospital. The next few hours would be chaos. But as I got in my car, I noticed one last unread message from Helen, sent moments before she died. "Remember, sweetheart, sometimes the best revenge is living well." I started the engine, leaving Ethan and Megan to face the consequences of their choices. Helen had taught me that justice and revenge aren't always the same thing. Sometimes they're better. 6 months after Helen's funeral, I stood in her garden, surrounded by the spring flowers she'd planted last fall. Her final gift, blooming in defiance of everything that had happened. The house sale was closing today. Ethan wouldn't be there, he couldn't be, given the conditions of his plea deal. The embezzlement charges had stuck, even if Megan had managed to avoid prosecution by turning state's evidence. "Last box," Greg said, carrying a carefully wrapped photo album to my car. He'd been my rock through all of this, even as he navigated his own divorce from Megan. "Found something you should see," he added, pulling an envelope from his pocket. It was hidden behind Helen's bedroom mirror. The envelope was dated 3 days before her death, addressed to me in her elegant handwriting. Inside was a key and a letter. My dearest Jamie. By the time you read this, you'll know everything. About Ethan's betrayal, about Megan, about the money. But there's one last thing you don't know, something I've kept hidden for 30 years. The key opens a safety deposit box at First National. What you find there might help you understand why I wasn't surprised by Ethan's actions. Some patterns repeat across generations, but you've shown me they can also be broken. You were the daughter I always wanted. Remember that. Love, Helen. My phone buzzed, a text from my lawyer. Ethan signed the divorce papers. It's done. I looked at the key in my hand, then at the blooming garden. Helen had known, not just about Ethan's recent betrayals, but about something deeper, older. Something she'd kept hidden until she was sure I was strong enough to handle it. Want company? Greg asked, noticing my expression. I shook my head. This one I need to do alone. The bank was quiet when I arrived. The safety deposit box contained a single manila envelope, thick with documents. On top was another note from Helen. The truth about Ethan's father, and why I never told anyone how he really died. My hands shook as I read the decades-old police reports, newspaper clippings, and Helen's private journals. The pattern she'd mentioned became clear, a history of financial fraud, betrayal, and secrets that had shaped both mother and son. But Helen had broken the cycle. She'd chosen truth over protection in the end, chosen justice over family loyalty. Chosen me. My phone buzzed again, work this time. The promotion I'd been worried about losing had turned into a CEO position at a competing firm. Life had a way of surprising you. As I drove home, I passed the street where Megan now lived alone, where Greg was rebuilding his life, where Ethan had lost everything. The revenge I'd wanted had come naturally, without me having to orchestrate it. Helen had taught me that too. Sometimes justice works best when you step back and let truth do its work. At home, I found one last surprise, a small package from Helen's lawyer. Inside was a set of garden tools and seeds, with a final note. For your new beginning. Some gardens grow better after a fire. I stood in my backyard, holding the seeds Helen had chosen for me months ago, planning for a future she wouldn't see but had helped create. The spring air was thick with possibility. My phone lit up with another text, an unknown number. For a moment, I tensed, remembering those threatening messages from months ago. But this was different. Thank you for the flowers on Mom's grave. You were a better child to her than I ever was. I didn't respond. Some conversations were better left in the past. Instead, I knelt in the soft earth and began to plant Helen's seeds, understanding finally what she'd meant about patterns and choices. About revenge and grace. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying what hurt you. Sometimes it's about growing something new in the ashes of what was lost. I dug my hands into the soil and began my new chapter, Helen's last lesson blooming around me like a garden after rain.
I stepped off the plane from Italy with a heart full of stories and a camera roll bursting with content for my travel vlog. 2 weeks of exploring hidden trattorias and ancient villages had given me exactly what I needed for my next series. My name is Avery, and until today, I thought I had finally figured out how to balance my dream job with my marriage. The first sign something was wrong came when Eric didn't answer my texts after I landed. Usually, he'd send at least a quick, "Welcome back," or ask when to pick me up. Instead, I got radio silence and had to grab an Uber home. No big deal, I told myself. He was probably stuck in a meeting or something. The second red flag hit me when I saw his mother's car in our driveway. "Hello?" I called out, dragging my suitcase through the front door. The house felt different somehow, tense, like the air before a storm. I found them sitting in our living room like they were waiting for a funeral to start. Eric perched on the edge of the couch, his hands clasped together so tight his knuckles were white. His mother Lorraine sat next to him, ramrod straight in her designer pantsuit, lips pressed into that thin line I'd grown to hate over the years. "Welcome home, dear," Lorraine said, in that syrupy voice that always meant trouble was coming. Eric wouldn't look at me. "We need to talk, Avery." My stomach dropped. I'd seen enough movies to know nothing good ever followed those words. "What's going on?" "Your lifestyle," Lorraine began, gesturing vaguely at my travel-worn appearance. "It's becoming concerning." I let out a laugh that probably sounded more nervous than I intended. "My lifestyle? You mean my job? The one that's finally taking off?" "That's exactly what we mean." Eric finally looked up, and something in his eyes made me take a step back. "This isn't sustainable, Avery. The constant traveling, the irregular income, living out of a suitcase. It's not how a marriage is supposed to work." "Not how a marriage is supposed to work?" I echoed, my voice rising. "My channel just hit 500,000 subscribers. I'm making more now than I did in corporate marketing." Lorraine cleared her throat. "Money isn't everything, dear. What about starting a family? Putting down roots?" "We agreed to wait on kids," I said to Eric, ignoring his mother. "You said you supported this." "I supported a hobby," he replied, standing up. "But this has gone too far. I need stability, Avery. A real wife, not someone who's gone more than she's home." The word "real" hit me like a slap. I noticed then that there were papers on the coffee table. Legal papers. "What is this?" I asked, though I already knew. "An ultimatum," Eric said quietly. "Either you give up the vlog and commit to building a real life here with me, or what?" My voice came out barely above a whisper. "Or we end this now, before we waste any more time." I picked up the papers with trembling hands. Divorce papers, already filled out with everything except my signature. "You did this while I was gone?" I looked between them, reality crashing down around me. "You waited until I was out of the country to plan this?" "We knew you wouldn't be reasonable if we tried to discuss it normally," Lorraine said, as if that made it better. I stood there, still in my travel clothes, jet-lagged and shell-shocked, looking at these two people who claimed to love me, plotting to strip away everything I'd built for myself. "I need time to think," I managed to say, backing toward the stairs. "I can't. I need time." "Don't take too long," Lorraine called after me. "Eric deserves an answer." I made it to our bedroom before the tears started, but they weren't sad tears. They were angry ones. As I sat on the edge of our bed, still clutching those papers, something shifted inside me. They thought they could force me to choose? Fine, but they weren't going to like the choice I made. I pulled out my phone and opened my messages to Mia. "You won't believe what just happened. Can I crash at your place tonight?" Mia's spare bedroom became my sanctuary that night. I sat cross-legged on her guest bed, surrounded by takeout containers while she paced the room, her creative director energy in full force as she processed my story. "So let me get this straight," she said, gesturing with a spring roll. "They ambushed you with divorce papers because you're too successful? According to them, it's about stability." I stabbed at my pad thai. "Eric says he wants a real wife." "Oh, honey." Mia sat beside me. "What are you going to do?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Eric's face appeared on the screen. I'd been dodging his calls all evening, but something made me answer this time. "Where are you?" His voice was tight. "Mother's worried sick." I almost laughed. "Mother's worried?" "I'm the one who came home to an intervention." "Just come home. We can talk about this rationally." "Rationally?" The word tasted bitter. "Like how you rationally waited until I was out of the country to plan this with your mother? That's not fair. I've been trying to talk to you about this for months." "No, you've been dropping hints about how my work isn't serious enough. There's a difference." Silence stretched between us. "Then, I got a promotion." "What?" "Senior partner. They announced it while you were gone. It means more responsibility, more stability. We could finally start that family mothers always." "Stop." My hand tightened around the phone. "Just stop. This isn't about your promotion or your mother's wants. This is about control. Don't be dramatic, Avery. I'm trying to build a future for us." "No, you're trying to build the future you and your mother want." "Did you even watch any of my Italy videos?" More silence. Of course he hadn't. I have to go, I said. I'm working on editing my new content. See? This is exactly what I mean. You're always working on your little videos instead of. I hung up. Mia watched me carefully. You okay? I need my laptop. I was already pulling it out of my bag. Remember that amazing grandmother I met in Tuscany? The one who taught me her family's secret pasta recipe. Yeah? I'm posting that video tonight. Not next week like I planned. My fingers flew over the keyboard. With a special dedication. Avery. Mia's voice held a warning note. To all the women who were told their dreams weren't practical enough. I typed in the description. And to those who tried to clip their wings. The next morning, my phone exploded with notifications. The video had gone viral overnight, with comments pouring in from women sharing their own stories of being pressured to give up their passions for someone else's comfort. Then came the text from Eric. My colleagues saw your video. Was that really necessary? I was crafting a response when another message appeared, this one from Lorraine. You're embarrassing this family. Eric deserves better than your childish attention-seeking. My hands shook as I typed back. Family? You mean the one trying to force me to choose between my identity and your approval? We're trying to help you grow up, she replied. One day you'll thank us. I screenshot the exchange and sent it to Mia with the caption, watch me grow up and away from this toxicity. Later that afternoon, I sat in my favorite coffee shop, editing my next video when Jackson, my mentor in the vlogging world, slid into the seat across from me. Saw your Tuscany piece, he said, pushing a fresh latte toward me. Powerful stuff. You okay? Getting there. I wrapped my hands around the warm cup. Did you know they had those papers ready before I even left for Italy? Jackson's eyebrows shot up. That's cold. Yeah. I took a sip of coffee. But you know what's colder? I just checked our joint account. Eric moved most of our savings to his personal account while I was gone too. Jesus. Jackson leaned back. What are you going to do? I opened my laptop, showing him the draft of my next video, a behind-the-scenes look at how I built my brand from scratch. I'm going to remind them that they're not the only ones who know how to plan ahead. The coffee shop's window reflected my smile, and for the first time since coming home, it didn't feel forced. They wanted to play hardball? Game on. I never meant to find the emails. I'd only logged into our shared computer to download some backup footage when a notification popped up from Eric's account. Usually, I'd ignore it, but the subject line caught my eye. Concerns about Avery. My hands hovered over the keyboard. This was wrong. This was invasion of privacy. This was exactly what I needed to do. The email chain between Eric and his mother went back months. Before Italy. Before the ultimatum. Before everything. She's becoming more distant, Eric had written 3 months ago. Every time she leaves for these trips, she comes back different. More independent. Less willing to listen to reason. Lorraine's response made my stomach turn. That's why we need to act now, dear. Before she completely loses sight of her real responsibilities. I've spoken with Sarah at the firm. There's still an opening in the marketing department if we can convince her to give up this internet fantasy. They'd planned it all. The job. The intervention. Everything. They'd even discussed ways to make my vlogging more difficult, accidentally deleting footage, scheduling family events during my editing time. Guilt-tripping me about travel expenses despite my channel's revenue. I was still staring at the screen when my phone buzzed. Eric. Coming home tonight? His voice was carefully neutral. Mother's making her pot roast. Actually, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I'm meeting with my lawyer. Silence. Then, lawyer. Yes, to discuss the interesting emails I just found. The ones about sabotaging my career. You went through my emails? His voice rose. That's private. Private like plotting with your mother to destroy my business? Private like arranging a job for me without my knowledge. We were trying to help you. Help me. I laughed, but it sounded more like a sob. By going behind my back? By treating me like a child who can't make her own decisions. You're being irrational. No, I'm being crystal clear. For the first time in our marriage, I'm seeing everything perfectly. I took a deep breath. I'm sending you a link to my latest video. You should watch it. Mother too. I hung up before he could respond and opened my editing software. The footage I'd been saving for next week would work perfectly for today instead. I'd filmed it in a tiny restaurant in Rome, interviewing a female chef who'd fought her entire family to follow her culinary dreams. 3 hours later, the video went live, breaking free when family doesn't mean support. In the description, I included screenshots of select emails, carefully edited to protect private information, but clear enough to show the manipulation. My phone exploded immediately. First came Lorraine's text, "Take that down immediately or you'll regret it." Then, "Eric, you've gone too far." Mother's crying. Finally, a message from an unknown number, "Saw your video. I'm a producer with Travel Network. Let's talk." I screenshotted the producer's message and sent it to both Eric and Lorraine with one line. "Funny how my internet fantasy keeps proving you wrong." Mia called moments later. "Girl, you're trending. Have you seen the comments?" I hadn't. I opened the video and felt tears well up as I read them. Hundreds of women sharing similar stories of family members trying to clip their wings, of partners who couldn't handle their success, of mothers-in-law who saw independence as a threat. "I never wanted this fight," I told Mia. "I just wanted to share the world with people. Sometimes the biggest fights find us when we're just trying to be ourselves," she replied. "You coming to the studio tomorrow? Jackson's offering to help you film a follow-up." I glanced at the divorce papers still sitting in my bag, then at the producer's message on my phone. "Yeah, I'll be there. I think it's time to show them exactly what happens when you try to cage someone who was born to fly." My laptop pinged with another email notification, Lorraine again, probably with more threats or guilt trips. I closed the browser without reading it. They'd had months to scheme and plot against me. Now it was my turn to write the story, and this time, I was making sure it had a different ending. The meeting with the Travel Network producer went better than I could have dreamed. Sitting in Jackson's studio, I stared at the contract in front of me, my hands shaking slightly as I read through the terms. They want to do a whole series? Mia paced behind me, practically vibrating with excitement. About women breaking free from traditional expectations around the world? 6 episodes to start, I confirmed, still processing it myself. Each featuring a different country and different stories of women who chose their dreams over society's demands. Jackson leaned against his editing desk. "This is huge, Avery. Like, life-changing huge." My phone buzzed. Eric again. I'd been dodging his calls since the email expose, but this time I answered. "What?" "Mother's in the hospital." My heart stuttered. "What happened?" "Anxiety attack. After your little stunt with those emails went viral, her church group started asking questions. She couldn't handle the shame. The guilt hit hard, exactly as he intended. That's not fair, Eric." "Fair? Was it fair to expose private family matters to the world? To humiliate us both for some internet fame?" I looked at the contract on the table, then at my friends watching with concern. "No. What wasn't fair was you two plotting behind my back to destroy my career. What wasn't fair was..." "She's asking for you," he interrupted. "Says she needs to explain something. Something about her own mother." I caught Mia's eye, saw her subtle head shake of warning. "I can't. I have a meeting. More important than family? You lost the right to play the family card when you chose your mother's happiness over your wife's." Silence stretched between us. Then, I saw the video. The one about the chef in Rome. "You actually watched it?" "Yes." His voice softened. "She reminded me of you. Passionate. Determined." A pause. Scared of disappointing everyone. My throat tightened. I'm not scared anymore. I know. That's what terrifies me. After we hung up, I stared at my phone until Jackson cleared his throat. "You okay?" "They're trying to pull me back in," I said. "Using guilt, using family, using everything they know about me. What are you going to do?" I picked up the contract. "I'm going to sign this. Then I'm going to visit my mother-in-law." "Avery," Mia started, but I cut her off. Not because they guilt-tripped me, but because I need her to see something. An hour later, I walked into Lorraine's hospital room, laptop under my arm. She looked smaller somehow, vulnerable in the hospital gown. Eric wasn't there, probably at work, keeping up appearances. "Come to finish what you started?" Her voice was weak but still carried that edge. "No," I set up my laptop. I came to show you something. I pulled up the rough cut of my next video, interviews with my followers sharing their stories of breaking free. Women who started businesses in their 50s, who went back to school after divorce, who traveled the world solo after years of being told they couldn't. These are the lives you wanted to prevent, I said quietly. These are the dreams you tried to crush because they scared you. You don't understand. But I do, because they told me about the Lorraines in their lives too. The women who tried to keep them small because they never got the chance to be big themselves. Her face crumpled. My mother didn't let you pursue art school. I know. Eric told me once. Tears slid down her cheeks. I was trying to protect you from disappointment. No, I closed the laptop. You were trying to protect yourself from regret. But it's not too late, Lorraine. Not for either of us. I left the contract on her bedside table as I walked out. Let her see what her daughter-in-law was capable of. Let her understand what she'd tried to stop. My phone buzzed with a text from the producer. When can you start filming? I smiled as I typed back. How soon do you need me? Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone's world. Sometimes it's about building your own so magnificently that they have to watch from the sidelines, knowing they tried to stop it from existing. The dinner was my idea. One last attempt at reconciliation, I told myself, though deep down I knew it was more about proving something. I'd spent the afternoon cooking a traditional Italian feast, recreating recipes I'd learned in Tuscany. The same recipes that had helped launch my channel's success. Eric arrived first, wearing the careful expression of a man walking into a minefield. Smells good. Thanks. I kept my focus on plating the osso buco. Your mother here yet? She's parking. Avery. He stepped closer. About the hospital visit. The doorbell cut him off. Lorraine swept in, designer handbag clutched like a shield. Well, isn't this quaint? I'd set the dining room table with my best dishes, candles flickering against the growing darkness outside. The travel network contract sat beside my plate and signed, but impossible to ignore. I made everything from scratch, I said, serving the food, including the recipes I learned from that grandmother in Florence. The one whose video you both refused to watch. Lorraine picked up her fork with practiced elegance. Dear, about that contract. Let's eat first, Eric interrupted. Can we just have one normal family dinner? Normal. The word tasted bitter. Like the normal life you planned for me behind my back? Avery, Lorraine's voice carried that familiar warning tone. We've apologized. What more do you want? Apologized? I set down my wine glass harder than intended. You had an anxiety attack and played the victim. Eric blamed me for humiliating you. Neither of you has actually apologized. Because there's nothing to apologize for, Eric snapped. We were trying to help you. Help me. I pulled out my phone, opening my analytics app. My channel has over 1 million subscribers now. The video about that Roman chef? It paid for this dinner. The series about breaking free from toxic expectations? It's funding my lawyer. Lorraine's fork clattered against her plate. Lawyer, did you think I wouldn't fight back? I turned to Eric. Did you really believe I'd just give up everything I've built because you and your mother decided it wasn't proper enough? We decided? Eric laughed, but it wasn't kind. You decided years ago that your internet fame was more important than our marriage. Internet fame? I stood up, hands shaking. I built a business. I created something meaningful. While you two were plotting to cage me in some corporate job, I was helping other women find their voice. And what about my voice? Eric stood too. What about what I wanted? What you wanted? I gestured at Lorraine. Or what she wanted for you. Don't you dare, Lorraine started, but I cut her off. No, I'm done being polite. I'm done pretending this is about family or stability or whatever excuse you're using this week. This is about control. This is about you being so scared of change that you'd rather destroy your son's marriage than let him be happy with someone who doesn't fit your mold. The silence that followed felt like glass about to shatter. Then Lorraine reached for her bag, pulling out a familiar document. The contract I'd left at the hospital. You want to know what I think about your success? She ripped the contract in half. I watched the pieces flutter to the table, something breaking and reforming inside me. Thank you. Thank you. Eric looked confused. Yes. I walked to my office, returning with another copy of the contract, this one already signed. Thank you for finally showing me who you really are. Both of you. What does that mean? Lorraine's voice wavered. It means I start filming next week. In Paris. I picked up the torn contract pieces. And when I get back, I won't be coming home. My lawyer will be in touch about the divorce proceedings. Avery, wait. Eric reached for me, but I stepped back. I made tiramisu for dessert, I said, gathering my keys and phone. Enjoy it. Consider it a parting gift, proof that sometimes the sweetest revenge is simply living well. I walked out of my house for the last time, leaving them with their cold osso buco and shattered expectations. In my car, I texted Mia, "It's done. Can you help me pack tomorrow?" Her response was immediate. "Proud of you. Wine and boxes are ready whenever you are." I started the engine, watching the dining room lights through the window. Sometimes you have to burn bridges to stop yourself from crossing them again. The morning I planned to leave for Paris, I woke up to find my YouTube channel gone. Not just a video or two, the entire channel had vanished. 5 years of work, over 1 million subscribers, everything that proved I wasn't just playing at success, disappeared overnight. My hands shook as I called Jackson. "Someone hacked me. Everything's gone." "I'm on it," he said. "But Avery, there's more. Check your email." The travel network's message was brief, due to concerns about recent controversies and channel instability. "We regret to inform you that we must withdraw our offer." My phone buzzed with a text from Eric, "Mother knows people in television. Maybe now you'll understand what real stability means." I sat on Mia's guest bed, surrounded by half-packed boxes, trying to breathe. They'd finally done it. They'd found a way to clip my wings. "We can fight this," Mia said, pacing the room. "Jackson knows cybersecurity people. We can prove." "Prove what?" My voice cracked. "That my mother-in-law has connections? That my husband's firm probably handled the network's accounts? They made it look legitimate. Clean." My phone kept buzzing. Followers asking what happened. Collaborators wondering about planned projects. Each notification felt like another brick in the wall they were building around me. Then came Lorraine's call. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Ready to be reasonable?" Her voice dripped with false concern. "Eric's willing to forget all this unpleasantness. The marketing position is still open. Did you enjoy it?" My voice was eerily calm. "Destroying something I built just because you couldn't control it? Oh, darling. We saved you from yourself. From this fantasy world you'd created. Real life isn't about gallivanting around the globe, pretending to be something you're not. The only pretending I did was trying to be the daughter-in-law you wanted. Come home, Avery. Stop this foolishness." I ended the call and turned to Mia. "I need your camera." "What?" "Your camera. And help me set up my phone to record." Understanding dawned in her eyes. "They can take down your channel, but they can't stop me from starting over." I was already pulling out my laptop. "Call Jackson. Tell him to bring his equipment. We're doing this live." An hour later, we had a makeshift studio set up in Mia's living room. 3 cameras, proper lighting, and a determination I hadn't felt since my first video. Going live in 3, 2. Jackson gave me the signal. "Hi, I'm Avery Quinn, and this isn't my usual setup." This morning, I woke up to find my channel deleted. 5 years of work, gone. Why? Because I refused to give up my dreams to fit someone else's idea of success. My hands were steady now as I looked directly into the camera. "To my mother-in-law, who thinks she's teaching me a lesson about stability, thank you. You've taught me that true stability comes from within, not from following someone else's rules. To my soon-to-be ex-husband, who chose control over love, thank you. You've shown me that sometimes losing everything is the first step to gaining something better. And to everyone watching, this is what starting over looks like. This is what they don't tell you about following your dreams. Sometimes people will try to stop you. Sometimes they'll succeed. But they can never take away your voice unless you let them." The viewer count kept climbing. Comments flooded in. Stories of similar experiences, offers of help, messages of support. Then came a comment that made my blood freeze. "Lying about your family for views? Pathetic. Hope you're ready for legal consequences." Eric's law firm's official account. I stared at the threat, feeling the walls close in again. They could destroy my career, my reputation, everything I'd built. They had the resources, the connections, the power. But as I looked at the growing support in the comments, at Mia and Jackson standing firmly beside me, I realized something. They could take away my platform, but they couldn't take away my story. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't fighting back, it's refusing to be silenced. I looked back at the camera, straightened my shoulders, and smiled. So, who wants to hear about a little cafe in Paris I'll be visiting next week? The viewer count hit 100,000 and kept climbing. The Netflix email arrived 3 months into my Paris stay. Not just an offer, a full series deal. 6 episodes, international production, complete creative control. Everything Eric and Lorraine had tried to destroy was rising from the ashes, stronger than before. I hadn't expected them to show up at my Paris apartment. But there they were, standing in my doorway like ghosts from a life I'd left behind. "Impressive view," Lorraine said, pushing past me into the sunlit space. "The firm's been following your recovery with interest." Eric lingered by the door, looking uncomfortable in his tailored suit. "We saw the Netflix announcement. Did you?" I kept my voice neutral, though my hands itched to grab my phone and start recording. Funny how life works out sometimes. "Darling," Lorraine settled onto my couch like she owned it. "We've been thinking. Perhaps we were hasty in our approach." "Hasty?" I laughed, the sound echoing off the Parisian walls. "You destroyed my channel. Threatened me with legal action. Tried to force me into submission. And look how well you've landed on your feet." She smiled, all teeth. "Thanks to our motivation. Mother," Eric warned, but she waved him off. "The family name still carries weight," she continued. "We could help with the Netflix project. Open doors. Make introductions." I walked to my window, looking out at the Eiffel Tower in the distance. "Why are you really here?" "The firm's struggling," Eric admitted quietly. "Your story. It resonated with people. Clients are asking questions about how we handled things. So this isn't about reconciliation," I turned back to them. "It's about damage control. It's about family," Lorraine insisted. "About putting the past behind us and moving forward. Together." My phone buzzed, a reminder about today's shoot. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was supposed to be filming a segment about women reclaiming their power. You know what the biggest lesson of all this has been? I moved to my filming setup, adjusting the camera. Sometimes the people who claim to love you the most are the ones most afraid of your success. "What are you doing?" Eric stepped forward. "Creating content." I hit record. "Tell me, Lorraine, why did you really come to Paris? To support me? Or because your son's firm is bleeding clients after trying to silence a woman for choosing her career over conformity?" "Turn that off," she snapped, mask cracking. "No." I stood straighter. "You wanted to be part of my story? Here's your chance. Tell my viewers why you thought destroying someone's dreams was an acceptable form of family love." "This is ridiculous." Eric moved toward the camera, but I blocked him. "Touch my equipment and I'll add harassment to the documentary I'm making about toxic family dynamics. I'm sure Netflix will love that angle." Lorraine stood, composure finally shattering. "You ungrateful." "Grateful." I let my voice rise, knowing the camera caught every word. "For what? For teaching me that true family supports instead of suppresses? For showing me that success is the best revenge? Thank you, truly. I couldn't have built this new life without your attempts to destroy my old one." "Eric," Lorraine turned to her son, "are you going to let her speak to us this way?" But Eric was staring at me, really seeing me maybe for the first time. "You never needed our help, did you?" "No," I said softly. "I only needed you to believe in me. Both of you. But you couldn't handle a version of me that didn't fit your mold." "This isn't over." Lorraine grabbed her bag. "Actually, it is." I gestured to the door. "My crew will be here soon to film. Unless you'd like to stay and explain to them why you're here." They left without another word, but as the door closed, I heard Lorraine's sharp intake of breath. Through the window, I watched them hurry past the cafe where my camera crew was already setting up. I touched my phone, stopping the recording. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about letting people witness their own toxicity, perfectly framed and in focus. 1 year later, I stood in front of a packed auditorium in New York, preparing to screen the final episode of my Netflix series. The show had exceeded everyone's expectations, becoming a rallying cry for women fighting to define success on their own terms. Mia sat in the front row, beaming, while Jackson filmed from the side, probably for his own documentary about independent creators. The energy in the room crackled with anticipation. Then I saw her slip in through the back door. Lorraine, looking smaller somehow, clutching a familiar leather-bound notebook I recognized from her college days. The art portfolio she'd never shown anyone. I began my introduction. A year ago, I thought losing everything meant the end of my story. Instead, it was just the beginning. The lights dimmed, and the episode began to play. Afterward, during the Q&A, a young woman stood up. "What would you say to the people who tried to stop you?" Before I could answer, another voice cut through the crowd. Lorraine had made her way to the microphone. "I can answer that," she said, her voice wavering. "Because I was one of them." The room went silent. My heart pounded as she opened her portfolio, pulling out a yellowed piece of paper. 40 years ago, I got accepted to art school in Paris. Her hands shook. My mother tore up the acceptance letter. Said proper women don't abandon their families for foolish dreams. She looked directly at me. I became the very thing I hated because it was easier than admitting I was wrong. I gripped the podium, unsure whether this was another manipulation or something real. "The firm filed for bankruptcy last month," she continued. "Eric's starting over at a smaller company. He's happier, actually. Away from my influence." She managed a small smile. "Your success didn't destroy us, Avery. It freed us." After the event, I found her waiting by the exit, clutching her portfolio like a shield. "These are good," I said, glancing at the sketches she'd finally shared. "Really good." "I'm taking classes now," she admitted. "Local art studio. Baby steps." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve to know that your revenge wasn't just about proving us wrong. It was about proving that it's never too late to be right." She handed me an envelope. I wrote this months ago, but never had the courage to send it. Later that night, in my hotel room, I opened her letter. Pages of confessions, regrets, and finally, understanding. The last line caught in my throat. "Thank you for showing me that the dreams we bury don't die. They just wait for someone brave enough to dig them up again." My phone buzzed with a text from Eric. "Saw your finale. You were right. About everything. I'm sorry it took losing you to find myself." I didn't respond, but I did open my laptop and start typing. "Dear followers, let me tell you a story about revenge. Not the kind that destroys, but the kind that rebuilds. The kind that shows others how to break free from their own cages." Mia called as I was finishing the post. "You okay?" That was intense with Lorraine. "Yeah," I looked out at the New York skyline. "You know what's funny? I spent so long trying to prove them wrong, I never considered that maybe what they needed was someone to prove it was okay to change. So what's next for the great Avery Quinn?" I smiled, thinking of Lorraine's art portfolio, Eric's new start, and my own journey. "I'm thinking of doing a series about late bloomers. People finding their passion after everyone told them it was too late. Revenge by inspiration?" Mia laughed. "Very you." "No," I corrected her, watching the sun set over the city. "Not revenge. Revolution. Sometimes the best endings aren't about winning or losing. They're about everyone finding their own path to freedom, even the ones who tried to clip your wings. Because in the end, the greatest victory isn't in proving others wrong. It's in proving to yourself that you were right all along."
I never thought my marriage would unravel because of a piece of paper, but that's exactly how it started. My name is Harper, and until last Tuesday, I believed I had the kind of life people dream about: a loving husband, a charming townhouse in Boston's Back Bay, and a future full of promise. Amazing how quickly perfect can turn to poison. I was sorting through the mail that afternoon the way I always did when an ivory envelope caught my eye. Paper was expensive, the kind that feels like silk between your fingers. It was addressed to my husband, Ethan, but what made me pause was the handwriting, delicate cursive that looked more like artwork than letters. No return address. Anything interesting? Ethan called from his home office upstairs. The sound of his voice made me jump, and I nearly dropped the envelope. Just bills and junk, I answered, hating how my voice wavered. In our 3 years of marriage, I'd never once opened his mail. But something about that envelope made my stomach twist. I heard his footsteps on the stairs and quickly shuffled the envelope to the bottom of the pile. Ethan appeared in the doorway, looking exactly like the successful businessman he was. Perfectly pressed shirt, designer watch, that confident smile that had first drawn me to him at a mutual friend's gallery opening. "You okay? You look pale," he said, crossing the room to kiss my forehead. "Just tired. The bookstore was crazy today." I forced a smile, acutely aware of the envelope burning a hole in the stack of mail. "How about pizza for dinner?" He checked his watch. "Can't tonight, sweetheart. Mother's hosting that charity thing at the house, remember? We need to be there by 7. Of course. Another Caldwell family obligation." I'd forgotten about Eleanor's latest fundraiser, probably because I'd been trying to. My mother-in-law had a way of making me feel like a charity case herself, even after 3 years. "Right," I said. "Let me just change in." "Actually, why don't you skip this one?" Ethan interrupted, loosening his tie. "You've been working so hard lately. Take the evening off, relax." Something in his tone made me look up sharply. He'd never suggested I skip a family event before. In fact, Eleanor would usually call personally to ensure my attendance. "Are you sure? Won't your mother mind?" "I'll handle mother." He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "It's just boring donor stuff anyway. You'd be miserable." I watched him head upstairs to change, that ivory envelope suddenly feeling like a lead weight in my hands. When I heard the shower start, I did something I never thought I would do. I opened it. Inside was a single card, the same creamy color as the envelope. The message was simple: same time, same place. Don't keep me waiting again. My hand shook as I read it twice more. The implications were clear, but my brain refused to process them. This had to be a mistake, a mix-up, anything but what it seemed. I heard the shower stop and quickly resealed the envelope as best I could, slipping it back into the pile. When Ethan came down 20 minutes later in his best suit, I was sitting on the couch pretending to read. "Sure you don't mind?" he asked, grabbing his keys. "Go," I said, amazed at how steady my voice sounded. "Have fun." He kissed me goodbye, and I watched through the window as he pulled away in his Mercedes. As soon as his taillights disappeared around the corner, I grabbed my phone and pulled up my best friend Lily's number. My finger hovered over the call button. The thing about perfect lives is that they're like beautiful houses. Sometimes the prettiest facades hide the worst damage. I had a choice to make. I could pretend I never saw that note and keep living in my perfect house of cards, or I could start looking for cracks in the foundation. I pressed call. Lily's words from our late-night phone call still echoed in my head as I watched Ethan getting ready for work the next morning. "Trust your gut, Harper. When have your instincts ever been wrong?" Problem was, my gut was telling me things I didn't want to hear. "You're up early," Ethan commented, adjusting his tie in the hallway mirror. There was a slight edge to his voice, probably because I'd barely spoken 2 words to him since he'd returned from Eleanor's charity event last night. Couldn't sleep. I sipped my coffee, studying him over the rim of my mug. "How was the fundraiser?" "Same as always." Mother cornered every wealthy widow in Boston. He checked his phone, frowning. "Speaking of Mother, she wants us over for dinner tonight." My stomach clenched. "Tonight? But it's Wednesday. We never do family dinner on Wednesdays." "She's insisting. Says she has something important to discuss." He wouldn't meet my eyes, still staring at his phone. "I told her we'd be there at 7. You didn't think to check with me first?" He finally looked up, irritation flashing across his face. "Since when do you have other plans on Wednesday nights?" "That's not the point, Ethan." I set my mug down harder than necessary. You've been making all these decisions lately without even asking me. The charity event last night, now this dinner. What's really bothering you, Harper? He stepped closer, his cologne different from his usual, making me feel slightly nauseated. Because this doesn't feel like it's about dinner with Mother. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and something in his expression shifted. I have to go. Early meeting. With whom? The words slipped out before I could stop them. He paused at the door, jaw tightening. Clients, Harper. That's what businessmen do. They meet with clients. After he left, I sat at our kitchen island, staring at nothing. 3 years ago, I'd fallen in love with Ethan's confidence, his easy charm. Now those same qualities felt like walls keeping me out. My phone lit up with a text from Eleanor. Darling, looking forward to dinner tonight? Wear something appropriate. I could practically hear her voice, dripping with polite disdain. In Eleanor's world, appropriate meant designer labels and family heirlooms, not the vintage dresses I loved from my bookstore salary days. I was about to reply when another text came through, this one from Ethan's Aunt Vivian. Coffee at Lardison in an hour? Need your book recommendations. Winky face. Vivian had always been different from the rest of the Caldwells. Where Eleanor wielded sophistication like a weapon, Vivian's warmth felt genuine. Plus, she was the family gossip. If anyone knew what was really going on, it would be her. Lardison was busy when I arrived, but I spotted Vivian immediately, her silver hair elegant against her coral blazer. She waved me over, 2 lattes already waiting. Harper, darling. She hugged me tight, then held me at arm's length. You look tired. Trouble sleeping. Just work stress, I lied, settling into my chair. She stirred her latte. Nothing to do with Eleanor's sudden Wednesday dinner plans? I tried to keep my face neutral. You know about that? Oh, I know many things. She leaned forward, lowering her voice. Like the fact that Celeste Moore is back in town. The name hit me like a slap. Celeste Moore, the gorgeous brunette who'd been at every Caldwell event until about 4 years ago, right before I met Ethan. She'd vanished so completely I'd almost forgotten about her. What does that have to do with anything? Vivian's eyes softened with something that looked dangerously like pity. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. But if I were you, I'd pay very close attention at dinner tonight. My phone buzzed, another text from Ethan. Might be late to Mother's. Meet you there. I showed Vivian the message. She read it, then reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Remember, Harper. In this family, nothing is ever quite what it seems. As I drove home, my mind raced. The ivory envelope. The mysterious meetings. Celeste's return. Felt like pieces of a puzzle were floating just out of reach, waiting to form a picture I wasn't sure I wanted to see. 7 o'clock couldn't come fast enough. Eleanor's dinner turned out to be anything but dinner. I sat alone at her mahogany dining table for 45 minutes before my mother-in-law finally emerged from her study. Perfectly coiffed and utterly unapologetic. Oh, darling. Has Ethan not arrived yet? She didn't wait for my answer, pouring herself a generous glass of wine. He just texted, caught up at the office. Such a dedicated worker, my son. I gripped my water glass tighter. You said this dinner was important, that you had something to discuss. Did I? Eleanor settled into her chair, studying me over the rim of her wine glass. Well, since you're here, we might as well talk about the Foundation's upcoming gala. The seating arrangements are proving quite challenging. My phone buzzed. Another text from Ethan. Sorry, sweetheart. Emergency meeting running late. Don't wait up. Something snapped inside me. I stood up, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. I need to use the restroom. Instead of heading to the powder room downstairs, I climbed the familiar stairs to Ethan's old bedroom. Now his home office when he worked from his mother's house. The door was unlocked. They never expected me to snoop. I was the good daughter-in-law after all. The grateful scholarship girl who'd married up. I found what I was looking for in his suit jacket pocket, hung carelessly over his chair, a hotel key card for the Four Seasons. The same hotel mentioned in hushed conversations I'd pretended not to hear, in texts I'd glimpsed over his shoulder. My hands shook as I took a photo of the key card with my phone. As I slipped it back into his pocket, something else caught my eye, a receipt from the hotel's restaurant. 2 cocktails, dinner for 2, dated last night. During Eleanor's charity event. I heard footsteps on the stairs and quickly moved to the hallway bathroom, splashing cold water on my face. When I returned downstairs, Eleanor was on the phone. "Yes, darling, she's still here," she was saying. "No, I haven't, of course not." She noticed me and quickly ended the call. "That was Ethan," she said smoothly. "He's worried about you driving home alone so late. Shall I have Harrison bring the car around?" I smiled, channeling every lesson in poise she'd ever given me. "Actually, I think I'll wait for Ethan at the hotel." Her perfectly plucked eyebrows rose slightly. "Hotel? The Four Seasons. That's where his emergency meeting is, right?" The flash of panic in her eyes confirmed everything. 20 minutes later, I sat in my car across from the hotel, watching the entrance. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. Part of me wanted to drive away, pretend I'd never seen the key card or the receipt. Pretend I didn't know exactly what I'd find if I walked through those doors. Then I saw them. Ethan emerged first, his tie loosened, hair slightly mussed. She followed a minute later, Celeste Moore, exactly as Vivian had warned. She was even more beautiful than I remembered from those old family photos, her dark hair falling in perfect waves, her red dress a splash of color against the night. I watched them share a lingering kiss before parting ways. Watched my husband straighten his tie, check his reflection in a window, and head toward his car. Watched him become the man I thought I knew again. My phone buzzed with a text from him. "Meeting running longer than expected. Staying at Mother's tonight." I started my car, my vision blurring with tears I refused to let fall. As I pulled away from the curb, I caught sight of Eleanor's driver, Harrison, parked discreetly across the street. Of course she'd had me followed. Of course she'd known. I drove straight to Lily's apartment, my mind already racing ahead to what came next. Because this wasn't just about Ethan's betrayal anymore. This was about 3 years of condescension, of subtle manipulations, of being made to feel grateful for crumbs of affection from the mighty Caldwell family. They thought I was weak, compliant, perfect, quiet wife who would accept whatever scraps of truth they deigned to throw her way. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Lily's apartment became my war room. After 3 sleepless nights of planning, I finally made the call I'd been dreading. The phone rang twice before a familiar voice answered. "Harper Monroe? It's been 10 years? Hello, Jack." I twisted the wedding ring on my finger. "I need your help." Jack Lawson had been the smartest kid in our high school, until he dropped out senior year to help support his family. Now he was one of Boston's most discreet private investigators. And more importantly, he had no connections to the Caldwell family. "Meet me at Cafe Luna in an hour," he said. "And Harper? Bring cash." Cafe was nearly empty when I arrived. Jack hadn't changed much, still had that sharp look in his eyes that made you feel like he could see right through you. He listened without interrupting as I laid out everything. The letter, the hotel, Celeste. "You sure you want to pull this thread?" he asked when I finished. "Rich families like the Caldwells, they've got ways of making problems disappear." "I'm already disappearing," I said. "I need to know the truth." He nodded, sliding a contract across the table. 3 days. $5,000. I'll find out what your husband's really up to. I handed him an envelope of cash, nearly my entire savings from before my marriage. "There's something else. I need you to look into Celeste Moore's history with the family. She vanished 4 years ago, right before I met Ethan. I need to know why." "Careful," Jack warned. Sometimes the truth's worse than not knowing. I was about to respond when my phone buzzed. Ethan, where are you? Mother's trying to reach you about the charity board meeting. I texted back that I was at work, the lie coming easily now. When I looked up, Jack was studying me. You're still living with him? If I leave now, I'll never know what really happened. I stood up. 3 days, Jack. That evening, I played my part perfectly. I sat through dinner with Ethan, nodding at his stories about work. I didn't flinch when he kissed my cheek, even though his cologne still carried traces of her perfume. But at midnight, my phone lit up with a text from Jack. Found something. Meeting tomorrow, same place, 8 a.m. Bring your laptop. That is joy. When I arrived at the cafe the next morning, Jack was already there, looking grim. Before I show you this, he said, you need to understand something. This goes deeper than just an affair. He pulled out his tablet, showing me financial records, emails, photos. My hands shook as I scrolled through them. Celeste Moore didn't just disappear 4 years ago, Jack explained. She was paid to disappear. $2 million transferred from a Caldwell family trust. The same trust that's been bleeding money ever since. I don't understand. Look at the dates. He pointed to a series of transactions. The payments started again 3 months ago, right around the time she came back. My stomach lurched as the pieces started falling into place. She's blackmailing them, and your husband's been embezzling from his own family's foundation to pay her off. Jack leaned back. Question is, what does she know that's worth destroying a marriage over? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed again. A text from Vivian. Need to see you. Urgent. Come to my house now. I showed Jack the message. He frowned. Be careful. The aunt might seem friendly, but she's still a Caldwell. I gathered my things, my mind racing. Send everything to my secure email. And Jack? Keep digging into what happened 4 years ago. Whatever Celeste is holding over them, that's when it started. As I drove to Vivian's, my hands gripped the steering wheel so tight they hurt. I'd wanted the truth, but now the truth felt like a weapon, one that could destroy not just my marriage but the entire Caldwell dynasty. The question was, did I have the courage to pull the trigger? Vivian's house felt different in the rain. The Georgian mansion I'd visited countless times for family brunches now loomed like something from a Gothic novel. I almost turned around when I saw Eleanor's car in the circular drive. Inside, voices drifted from Vivian's study. I recognized Eleanor's precise tone, then Vivian's sharper reply. She deserves to know. Know what? I asked from the doorway. They turned, startled. Eleanor's face was ashen, missing its usual perfect makeup. Vivian sat behind her desk, holding what looked like an old photograph. Harper! Eleanor smoothed her skirt, recovering quickly. This is a private family matter. I'm family. The words tasted bitter. Or have you forgotten that while planning your son's secret meetings with Celeste? Eleanor's eyes widened. Vivian made a sound between a laugh and a sigh. Well, Vivian said, that saves us some explanation. She held out the photograph. Though not all of it. Picture was old, yellowed at the edges. In it, a younger Eleanor stood with a man who wasn't Ethan's father. They were both beaming at a baby in Eleanor's arms. That's not Richard, I said, meaning Ethan's father. Who? My first love, Eleanor said quietly. And Celeste's father. The room tilted. I gripped the back of a chair. Ethan doesn't know, Vivian added. Neither does Celeste. Their father died before either was born. My voice failed. Ethan and Celeste are half-siblings. Eleanor's voice cracked. I gave her up for adoption. It was what everyone expected back then. Unmarried mother, prominent family. My phone buzzed, another text from Jack. Found adoption records. Call immediately. Does Ethan know? I asked, already knowing the answer. About the money? The blackmail. Eleanor's face hardened. Blackmail? What are you talking about? I pulled up the financial records on my phone, hands shaking as I showed them. $2 million 4 years ago. More payments starting 3 months ago. Your son has been embezzling from the foundation to pay her off. Vivian stood so quickly her chair toppled. That's impossible. I handle all the foundation's accounts. Not the private trust, I said. The one Richard set up for Ethan before he died. Eleanor sank into a chair, her aristocratic posture crumbling. Oh God. She must have found out somehow. The adoption records. But Ethan's payments started recently, I pressed. Why would he? My phone buzzed again. This time it was Ethan. Where are you? We need to talk. I found something in your email. I shot through my veins. I'd left my laptop open at home, logged into the email where Jack had sent everything. I have to go. I turned, but Vivian caught my arm. Harper, wait. There's more you need to know about Celeste. About what really happened 4 years ago. Let her go, Eleanor said, her voice hollow. She's already decided what kind of story this is. Haven't you, dear? The wealthy family's dark secret. The faithless husband. De perfecte revenge. I pulled away from Vivian's grip. You're wrong. This stopped being about revenge the moment I saw that photograph. Now it's about survival. Rain pounded against the windows as I drove home, my mind racing. Siblings. The word echoed like a curse. Did they know? Was that why Ethan had been paying her? Or was there something even darker hidden in the Caldwell family's perfect facade? My phone kept buzzing. Ethan. Jack. Vivian. I ignored them all. Because now I understood what I had to do. This wasn't just about exposing the truth anymore. It was about protecting Ethan, from Celeste, from his mother's lies, and maybe even from himself. But first, I had to get home before he finished reading those emails. The lights were on in our townhouse when I pulled up. Through the window, I could see Ethan pacing in his study, phone pressed to his ear. I took a deep breath and reached for the door handle. Time to find out what kind of story this really was. The front door felt heavier than usual as I pushed it open. Ethan stood in his study doorway, my laptop open on his desk behind him. His face held an expression I'd never seen before, something between rage and fear. Were you ever going to tell me? His voice was deadly quiet. About Celeste? I stepped inside, keeping my distance. Were you? He laughed, a harsh sound that made me flinch. About hiring a private investigator. About digging through my family's history. About, he stopped, running a hand through his hair. Do you have any idea what you've done? I know everything, Ethan. About the payments, about Eleanor, about... Stop. He crossed the room in 3 strides, grabbing my arm. You need to listen very carefully. Celeste is dangerous. The money wasn't for what you think. Let go of me. I twisted free, backing toward the door. She's your sister, Ethan. Your half-sister. All the color drained from his face. What? My phone buzzed, Jack again. I ignored it. Eleanor told me everything. The adoption, the cover-up. No. Ethan shook his head. No, that's not. Celeste isn't my sister. She's Richard's daughter. The world tilted sideways. What? From his first marriage. The one nobody talks about. His laugh was bitter now. Mother didn't give her up, his first wife did. When she found out he was leaving her for Mother. My phone kept buzzing. Finally, I answered. Jack, not now. Harper, get out of there. Jack's voice was urgent. Celeste just left Eleanor's house. She had a gun. The front door burst open before I could respond. Celeste stood there, mascara running down her cheeks, looking nothing like the polished woman from the hotel. You couldn't leave it alone, could you? She wasn't looking at me, but at Ethan. Had to play the noble brother, protecting everyone's secrets. Celeste, don't, Ethan started. Shut up. She pulled the gun from her purse. Tell her. Tell your perfect little wife what really happened 4 years ago. My heart hammered against my ribs. Ethan, I found out what father did, he said quietly. How he'd paid off Celeste's mother to disappear with her. How he'd erased all trace of his first family to marry mother. I tried to make it right. By paying me off. Celeste's hand shook. By making me disappear just like he did? By protecting you, Ethan shouted. Richard was still alive then. If he'd known you'd discovered the truth. Det truth? She laughed wildly. The truth is, you're just like him. Throwing money at problems until they go away. Well, I won't go away this time. Everything happened at once. Celeste raised the gun. Ethan lunged forward. I screamed. The shot was deafening in the enclosed space. Ethan stumbled, clutching his shoulder. Blood seeped between his fingers. Celeste stared at the gun like she'd never seen it before. Oh God, she whispered. Oh God, die dient man. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone must have heard the shot. Celeste turned and ran, leaving the gun on the floor. I knelt beside Ethan, pressing my hands against his wound. Stay still. Help is coming. Harper. His voice was weak. I'm sorry. I thought I could fix everything without anyone getting hurt. Like father, like son, I said bitterly. He caught my wrist with his good hand. The money. It wasn't just payments. I was helping her build a new life away from all this. I couldn't tell anyone, not even you. If Mother had found out about Richard's first marriage while he was alive. The sirens grew closer. Through the window, I saw Eleanor's car screech to a halt outside. In the chaos that followed, paramedics, police, Eleanor's hysteria, I felt strangely calm. 'Cause I finally understood. There are no heroes or villains in family stories. Just people trying to protect the ones they love, usually in all the wrong ways. Question was, what would protecting myself look like now? The hospital waiting room felt like limbo. 3 hours had passed since they'd taken Ethan into surgery and still no word. Eleanor paced while Vivian watched her with tired eyes. I sat apart from them, clutching my phone, waiting for news about Celeste. Jack's text came just after midnight. Found her. 4 seasons. Same room as before. I stood up. Eleanor's head snapped toward me. Where are you going? To finish this. Harper, Vivian warned. Let the police handle it. The police don't know what we know. I grabbed my coat. About Richard. About any of it. Eleanor blocked my path. You've done enough damage. Me. I laughed, the sound sharp in the quiet room. You built this house of lies, Eleanor. All of you. I just lived in it. The 4 Seasons lobby was deserted when I arrived. The night clerk recognized me from my previous visit, his eyes widening. Room 742, I said. Call the police in 10 minutes. The elevator ride felt endless. When I reached her door, I didn't knock. I had Ethan's key card, the one that had started all this. Celeste sat on the bed, still in her blood-stained clothes. The room reeked of whiskey. Come to arrest me? Her voice was hollow. No. I closed the door. I came to understand. Understand what? How it feels to be erased. She took another drink. To watch your father build a perfect new family while pretending you never existed? Ethan tried to help you. Help me. She stood, swaying slightly. He paid me to stay quiet. Just like Richard did with my mother. The Caldwell solution. Throw money at the problem until it goes away. Then why come back? Because I wanted them to see me. The glass shattered against the wall. Really see me. Not as some dirty secret, but as family. By threatening Ethan? By shooting him. I never meant. She sank back onto the bed. I just wanted to belong somewhere. Footsteps in the hallway. Vivian's voice. Harper? Are you in there? I opened the door. Vivian entered, followed by Eleanor. The three Caldwell women, facing their prodigal daughter. Hello, Mother, Celeste said to Eleanor. Or should I say stepmother? Eleanor flinched. I didn't know. About Richard's first marriage. Not until after he died. But Ethan knew, Vivian added quietly. He found the papers in Richard's study. Started tracking you down. To protect you, I corrected. From Eleanor finding out while Richard was alive. From the scandal destroying both families. And now, Celeste looked at Eleanor. Now that everyone knows? Sirens wailed in the distance. Eleanor straightened, every inch the Caldwell matriarch. Now we stop hiding. All of us. Ethan's out of surgery, Vivian said. He's asking for both of you. Celeste's eyes met mine. Why would he want to see me? Because he's the only one who never saw you as a secret. Held out my hand. He saw you as family. The sirens grew closer. Celeste stared at my outstretched hand, tears cutting through her mascara. I can't take it back, she whispered. Any of it. No, Eleanor said, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. But we can go forward. Together. When the police arrived, they found 4 women sitting quietly in a hotel room, telling the truth for the first time in decades. The whole truth, about Richard, about the money, about a family built on secrets and shame. Later, as dawn broke over Boston, I sat by Ethan's hospital bed, watching him sleep. My phone buzzed with a text from Lily. You okay? I thought about revenge, about justice, about the thin line between protecting and destroying the ones we love. About how sometimes the greatest act of courage isn't exposing the truth, but choosing what to do with it once it's exposed. No, I texted back. But I will be. We all will be. 6 months can change everything. The Boston winter had melted into spring, and I sat in my new apartment, surrounded by unpacked boxes and the morning light. On my coffee table lay the final divorce papers, waiting for my signature. My phone buzzed, a text from Celeste. Coffee? The usual place. These meetings had become our strange ritual over the past few months, ever since she'd finished her court-mandated therapy. The charges had been reduced after Ethan refused to testify against her. Another Caldwell family solution, but maybe this time the right one. Lardison was quiet when I arrived. Celeste sat at our regular table, 2 lattes waiting. She looked different now, softer somehow, without the sharp edges of revenge to hold her together. Eleanor asked about you at the foundation meeting, she said as I sat down. She misses you in her Eleanor way. How's that going? Working with her. Surprisingly well. Turns out we're both good at organizing charity galas. She smiled faintly. Though she still corrects my table settings. The foundation had been Eleanor's idea, transforming the private trust into a scholarship fund for children of broken families. A way to turn decades of secrets into something healing. And Ethan? Better. Physical therapy's helping. He's talking about moving to New York, starting fresh. She hesitated. He asks about you too. I touched the manila envelope in my bag containing the divorce papers. I know. He called yesterday. Are you going to sign? Before I could answer, my phone lit up with a text from Jack. Got the job. Starting Monday at the new agency. Thanks for the reference. Life's funny, I said, showing Celeste the message. A year ago, I hired Jack to expose your family's secrets. Now he's working for your security firm. Our family, she corrected gently. Whether you sign those papers or not. The bell above the door chimed. Vivian walked in, spotting us immediately. She'd been the bridge between all the broken pieces, somehow knowing exactly when to push and when to let things heal on their own. "I hoped I'd find you both here," she said, sitting down. "Eleanor's planning a summer party at the house. Proper one with both families invited." All the families. I thought about the past 6 months, the therapy sessions, the careful reconstructions of truth from lies, the slow building of something new from the ashes of what we'd burned down. "I should go," I said, standing. "I have some papers to sign." "Harper." Celeste caught my hand. "Whatever you decide. Thank you for showing us there's more than one way to be family." At home, I opened the divorce papers again. Behind them was another envelope, the one Ethan had left at my door last week. Inside was a single photograph, all of us at Christmas, even Celeste's mother, who Eleanor had finally tracked down. We looked messy, imperfect, real. On the back, Ethan had written, "Sometimes love means letting go. Sometimes it means holding on differently." I picked up my pen, understanding finally that this wasn't an ending. It was a transformation. The Caldwell family would always be part of my story, not as the perfect facade I'd married into, but as the beautifully flawed reality we'd all discovered together. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Eleanor. "The foundation board meeting is Thursday. Your seat is still empty." I looked at the divorce papers, then at the Christmas photo. Sometimes the hardest part isn't choosing between right and wrong, but finding the courage to choose both, to let go of what was while holding space for what could be. I picked up my pen and began to write not just my name but my own ending. Or maybe it was a beginning. With families like ours, it's sometimes hard to tell the difference.
I found it beneath my pillow, a small silver hoop earring with a dangling pearl. Not mine. Never mine. The sight of it made my stomach twist into familiar knots, the kind that signal your world is about to implode but your brain hasn't caught up yet. I'm Brooke, and until this moment, I'd been playing the role of the perfect wife in this pristine suburban nightmare. Funny how a tiny piece of jewelry can shatter years of carefully maintained denial. "Honey, have you seen my blue tie?" Ryan's voice drifted up from downstairs, casual and unbothered, like always. Like he hadn't just destroyed everything. "Check the laundry room," I called back, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. I rolled the earring between my fingers, feeling its weight, so light, yet somehow heavy enough to crush me. "Found it." He sounded pleased with himself. Always so pleased with himself. I heard his footsteps on the stairs and quickly slipped the earring into my pocket. Ryan appeared in the doorway, adjusting his tie with practiced precision. "Big case today. Probably won't be home until late." "Again?" I raised an eyebrow, watching him smooth down his already perfect hair in the mirror. "Your mother called. She's expecting us for dinner on Sunday." He barely flickered. "Did you tell her we're busy?" "No, because we're not." I moved closer, straightening his collar. Close enough to smell his cologne, to see the slight tension in his jaw. "Unless there's another late meeting." "Don't start, Brooke." He caught my hand, squeezed it just a little too hard. "You know how important this case is." I pulled away, forcing a smile. "Of course. The Morrison divorce, right?" "Thompson merger," he corrected, too quickly. "The Morrison case wrapped up last week." "My mistake." I turned away, organizing the already pristine dresser top. "Give my best to Mrs. Morrison." "Or Thompson. Whoever's keeping you late tonight." His reflection in the mirror stiffened. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing." I picked up his discarded pajama pants, folded them with precise corners. "Just being a supportive wife. Isn't that what your mother's always saying I should be?" Ryan checked his watch, already dismissing the conversation. "I don't have time for this. We'll talk later." "Will we?" But he was already gone, his footsteps echoing down the stairs. I waited until I heard the garage door close, then pulled out the earring again. Such a delicate thing. Probably expensive. Ryan always did have expensive taste. In the morning light, the pearls seemed to mock me, gleaming with secrets I wasn't supposed to know. My phone buzzed. Elena, coffee? You sound weird in your texts. I typed back, can't. Errands. Then added, actually, yes. Meet me at Riverside Cafe in 30. Her response was immediate, on my way. Bring whatever's making you text like a crazy person at 8 a.m. I slipped the earring into an envelope, grabbed my purse, and headed for the door. As I passed the hall mirror, I caught my reflection, perfectly styled hair, carefully applied makeup. Designer clothes chosen to please my mother-in-law's critical eye. The woman staring back at me looked exactly like what Ryan wanted, the trophy wife, the perfect accessory to his successful life. That woman was about to become his biggest mistake. I pulled out my phone again and opened my banking app. Time to see exactly how many late meetings my husband had been expensing lately. Ryan taught me well: document everything, trust no one, and always be 3 steps ahead. Let's see how he likes having those lessons turned against him. The Sunday dinner table at the Davis household always felt like a courtroom, with Deborah as judge and jury. Tonight, the china clinked with particular menace as she served her signature pot roast. Her eyes fixed on the empty chair where Ryan should have been. Another late meeting? She didn't even try to hide the accusation in her tone. The Morrison case is complicated, I lied, the same lie Ryan had fed me. The earring burned in my pocket where I'd kept it all week, my own secret evidence. A wife should know her husband's schedule. Deborah's knife scraped against her plate. In my day, we made sure to keep track. Frank cleared his throat. Deb, let the girl eat. I'm not a girl, Frank. The words slipped out before I could stop them. And I'm quite aware of Ryan's schedule. Deborah's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. What exactly does that mean? I took a slow sip of wine, buying time. It means I respect my husband's career. Isn't that what you've always wanted? What I want, Deborah leaned forward, is for my son to have a proper home life. Children, perhaps? Instead of this modern arrangement. The word modern dripped with disdain. I set down my glass carefully, remembering Elena's words from our coffee meeting, don't let them bait you. You're playing chess, not checkers. Speaking of modern, I smiled sweetly, how's your online banking working out? Ryan mentioned setting it up for you. Deborah blinked, thrown by the change in topic. Oh, well. Yes. Though I prefer having Frank handle the finances. Really? Because I noticed Ryan's been helping with quite a few transfers lately. I watched her face carefully. Large ones. The color drained from Deborah's face. Frank suddenly became very interested in his pot roast. I don't know what you're implying, Deborah's voice wavered slightly. I'm not implying anything. Just making conversation about family finances. Isn't that what proper wives do? Frank's fork clattered against his plate. Brooke, perhaps we should. Perhaps we should discuss why Ryan's been moving money from his parents' accounts into a separate one. I pulled out my phone, sliding it across the table. Or why these transfers coincide with his late meetings. Deborah snatched up the phone, her hands shaking. These are private family matters. I am family. Or have you forgotten that in your rush to defend your perfect son? How dare you? How dare I what? Notice? Ask questions? Be more than just the trophy wife you wanted for Ryan? Frank stood abruptly. That's enough. You're right, Frank. It is enough. I stood too, gathering my purse. Thank you for dinner. Oh, and Deborah. You might want to check the Morrison case details. It ended 2 weeks ago. Ryan's been lying to all of us. I made it to my car before the tears started, but they weren't tears of sadness. For the first time in years, I felt something else, power. My phone buzzed with a text from Elena. Did you do it? Phase 1 complete, I typed back. They know something's wrong, but not what yet. Another buzz. Ryan called. Looking for you. Of course he was. His mother would have reached him immediately, warning him that his carefully constructed world was starting to crack. I started the car, checking my rearview mirror. Deborah stood in the doorway, phone to her ear, gesturing frantically. Frank paced behind her, his military bearing forgotten in his agitation. My phone rang, Ryan's ringtone. I let it go to voicemail, imagining his face as he realized his mother knew about the money. He'd try to explain it away, of course. He was good at that. But the seeds of doubt were planted. The earring felt heavy in my pocket. Soon, very soon, it would make its appearance. But not yet. First, let him squirm, let him wonder what else I knew. I pulled away from the house, leaving chaos in my wake. Ryan had taught me well, in law, timing is everything. And my timing was about to become perfect. Ryan's laptop screen glowed in the darkness of his home office, illuminating secrets he thought were buried in encrypted files. Amazing what a spouse's birthday as a password can unlock. My hands trembled as I scrolled through email after email, each one worse than the last. Sarah, meet me at the usual place. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Miss you already. The messages stretched back months. Years. My marriage unraveling in time-stamped betrayals. A notification popped up, a new email from his bank. Another transfer, larger than the others. I clicked, then froze. The recipient's name matched the signature on those loving emails. Sarah Morrison. Not just his client's wife. His client's soon-to-be ex-wife. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. The Morrison divorce case. The one he'd wrapped up last week. The late meetings. The money from his parents. It all connected like a prosecutor's evidence board. My phone buzzed. Elena, you okay? It's 3 a.m. Before I could respond, headlights swept across the office window. Ryan's car, turning into the driveway. Early. Too early. I quickly closed the laptop, but not before forwarding key emails to my secure account. The stairs creaked under my feet as I hurried to our bedroom, heart pounding. The front door opened. Brooke? His voice carried up the stairs, tight with tension. We need to talk. I sat at my vanity, deliberately casual, when he appeared in the doorway. About what? My mother called. He loosened his tie, watching me in the mirror. Said you were asking questions about family finances. Worried about what I might find? His reflection smiled, but his eyes remained cold. There's nothing to find, sweetheart. Just some investments I'm handling for them. I opened my jewelry box, pulled out the pearl earring. Like this investment? The color drained from his face. Where did you? Your pillow. Last week. I set it on the vanity. Sarah has good taste. Tiffany's, right? Must have cost a fortune. Or did you use your parents' money for that too? It's not what you think. He stepped closer, reaching for my shoulder. I jerked away. Really? Because I think you're sleeping with your client's wife while stealing from your parents to fund your affair. I turned to face him. How am I doing so far? His facade cracked. Keep your voice down. Why? Afraid the neighbors might hear? Or afraid I might tell your mother exactly where her retirement fund went? You're being hysterical. His lawyer voice now, smooth and reasonable. Let me explain. Explain what? The hotel receipts. The secret account? Or should we discuss the Morrison case that conveniently made Sarah a very wealthy divorcee? He grabbed my arm, fingers digging in. You had no right to go through my things. Like you had no right to go through our marriage vows. I yanked free. Let me guess, Sarah's more understanding. More compliant. Everything your mother always wanted for you. Stop it. His voice cracked. Just stop. Why? Getting uncomfortable. Imagine how your father will feel when he learns his military pension is funding your midlife crisis. His hand shot out, knocking the jewelry box off the vanity. It crashed to the floor, scattering memories across the carpet. We both stared at the mess, breathing hard. You've changed, he whispered. No. I stepped over the scattered jewelry. I've just stopped pretending. Like you should have years ago. I grabbed my overnight bag, packed days ago, waiting for this moment. Ryan blocked the doorway. Where are you going? Away from you. Unless you'd like to explain to your parents why their daughter-in-law left in the middle of the night. He moved aside, defeated for now. But I knew better than to think it was over. We're not done, he called after me. Oh, we're just getting started. I paused at the top of the stairs. By the way, Sarah's other earring? Check your car's glove compartment. Wouldn't want her missing a matched set. I left him standing there, surrounded by the wreckage of his perfect life. In my purse, my phone buzzed with another bank notification. Another transfer from Ryan's account, this time, to my private one. Let him explain that to Sarah over their next late-night meeting. Elena's guest room felt like a confessional at 3 in the morning. I sat cross-legged on the bed, surrounded by printouts of bank statements and email threads, each page another nail in my marriage's coffin. You need to eat something, Elena appeared with coffee and toast. Revenge requires sustenance. I'm not sure it's revenge anymore. I pushed aside a stack of papers. It feels more like survival. My phone lit up, another message from Ryan. The 20th since I'd left. Each one increasingly desperate, come home. We can fix this. Don't do anything rash. Elena picked up one of the bank statements. Holy shit. Is this amount real? That's just what he took from his parents. I handed her another paper. This is what he's been moving to Sarah's accounts. The client's wife. Elena whistled. That's not just an affair. That's fraud. I finished her sentence. He's been manipulating the Morrison divorce settlement, hiding assets, creating fake expenses. The works. Have you told his parents? Not everything. I sipped the coffee, letting its warmth chase away the chill of certainty. Deborah called earlier. She's worried about Ryan's state of mind. Apparently, he's been acting erratic at work. Good. Elena's voice was hard. Let him squirm. My phone buzzed again. Not Ryan this time, Frank Davis. Brooke, we need to talk. Just us. Please. Elena read the message over my shoulder. It's a trap. Maybe. I stood up, pacing the room. But Frank's different from Deborah. He knows something's wrong with their accounts. He's been a military officer, he understands chain of command, following rules. And breaking them. Elena grabbed my arm. What if Ryan sent him? Then I'll have confirmation that they're all in it together. I started gathering the papers. Either way, I need to know. At least meet him somewhere public. I nodded, typing a response, the coffee shop on Main. 1 hour. Frank was already there when I arrived, sitting ramrod straight in his military posture. No coffee in front of him, just a manila envelope. Thank you for coming. He gestured to the chair across from him. I know this isn't easy. Nothing about this is easy, Frank. He slid the envelope across the table. I found these in Ryan's old room at our house. He's been retrieving things from our files. Inside were more bank statements, investment records, power of attorney documents. All with Ryan's signature. All dated months before the Morrison case began. He planned this, I whispered. All of it. There's more. Frank's voice cracked slightly. Sarah Morrison isn't just his client's wife. She's his college girlfriend. They reconnected when her husband hired him. The coffee shop suddenly felt too small, too exposed. Does Deborah know? She suspects. But she'll never admit it. Frank straightened his shoulders. I'm not here to defend him, Brooke. I'm here to warn you. Ryan's always been strategic. Even as a child. He doesn't lose well. What are you saying? I'm saying be careful. He's already trying to access your old accounts, your previous job records. He's building a case. Against me? I almost laughed. I'm not the one committing fraud. No, but you're the one who can expose it. Frank stood up. Whatever you're planning, do it fast. And Brooke? He paused. I'm sorry. For all of it. I watched him leave, the envelope heavy in my hands. My phone buzzed, Elena checking in. But another message caught my eye. An email notification. Account access alert, login attempt from unknown device. Then another, password reset requested. And another, security questions changed. Ryan wasn't just building a case. He was trying to erase me. I pulled out my phone, dialing Elena's number. Remember that lawyer friend of yours? The one who specializes in financial crimes? Lucas? Yeah, why? Tell him I need to meet. Today. I gathered my things, already moving. And Elena? Tell him to bring everything he has on the Morrison case. All of it. The game was changing. Ryan wanted to play dirty. Fine. But he'd forgotten one thing, I had nothing left to lose. And everything to prove. Lucas Reed's office felt like neutral territory, though the stack of Morrison case files between us was anything but neutral. He studied the documents I'd brought, his expression growing darker with each page. This isn't just fraud, he said finally. This is a calculated scheme spanning years. Ryan's been planning this since before he even took the Morrison case. Can we prove it? We can do better. He pulled out a USB drive. Remember that ethics investigation at Ryan's firm last year? The one that mysteriously went away. He plugged it in, turning his monitor toward me. It never really went away. The screen filled with more documents, internal memos, complaint files, settlement agreements. All carefully buried, all involving Ryan. Sarah Morrison wasn't his first affair with a client, Lucas continued. Just his most ambitious. My phone buzzed, Ryan again. This time with a different tone, I know you're meeting with Lucas Reed. Think carefully about your next move. He's watching me. I showed Lucas the message. Good. Lucas smiled grimly. Let him watch. It'll make this next part more interesting. He outlined the plan, each step more audacious than the last. By the time he finished, my hands were shaking, not from fear, but from possibility. It's risky, he warned. If we're wrong about any of this. We're not. I stood up, gathering the files. But I need to do something first. Elena was waiting outside in her car. Well? Drive me home. Are you insane? Ryan. Won't be there. It's Thursday. Board meeting until 7. I checked my watch. We have 2 hours. The house looked exactly as I'd left it, except for one detail, my jewelry box, now carefully restored to the vanity, every piece in place. Including both pearl earrings. He's trying to gaslight you, Elena said, watching me examine them. Make you doubt what you saw. No. I picked up the earrings. He's trying to prove he can fix anything. Control anything. I dropped them into my pocket. including me. We worked quickly, gathering what I needed: documents from Ryan's home office, backup drives, old photos. Evidence of the life he'd carefully constructed and was now desperately trying to preserve. A car door slammed outside. "Shit," Elena hissed. "He's early." "Go." I pushed her toward the back door. "Take everything. I'll handle this." "Brooke. Trust me." Ryan found me sitting at his desk, calm as Sunday dinner. "You're home. Temporarily." I smiled, the way he'd taught me, pleasant, unrevealing. "Just getting some things in order." "By breaking into my office?" He moved closer, trying to intimidate. "Going through my files. Meeting with Lucas Reed." "You taught me well, Ryan. Document everything. Trust no one. Remember? Whatever you think you know. I know enough." I stood, matching his stance. "About Sarah. About the other women. About your parents' money. The question is, what do you want everyone else to know?" His mask slipped, just for a moment. "Are you threatening me?" "No, darling. I'm negotiating." I pulled out the pearl earrings, set them on his desk. "You have until Sunday dinner to tell your parents everything. Or I will. They'll never believe you." "Maybe not. But the ethics board will. And so will the police." I moved past him, pausing at the door. "Oh, and Ryan? I'm keeping my house key. For now." "Why are you doing this?" His voice cracked. "We could fix this. Because you didn't just betray me, Ryan. You tried to erase me." I turned back one last time. Now I'm returning the favor. Elena was waiting around the corner, engine running. As we pulled away, I saw Ryan through the office window, standing exactly where I'd left him, holding those damned earrings. "You okay?" Elena asked. I checked my phone, one new message from Lucas: "Everything's in place. Ready when you are." "I'm perfect," I replied, to both of them. Sunday dinner's going to be interesting. The pearls in my pocket felt lighter now. No longer evidence of betrayal, but ammunition for what was coming. Ryan wanted to play chess. Fine. But he'd forgotten who taught him how to lose. Sunday dinner arrived with storm clouds and the weight of inevitability. I walked into the Davis family home for what I knew would be the last time. Carrying a folder that felt heavier than all my years of marriage combined. Deborah's perfect table setting screamed of denial, her best china, crystal glasses. Everything arranged as if normalcy could be forced through proper placement. "Brooke." Ryan stood as I entered, his lawyer's smile firmly in place. "We weren't sure you'd come. And miss family dinner?" I took my usual seat, noting how Frank's hands trembled slightly on his water glass. "Wouldn't dream of it." "Well," Deborah bustled in with her pot roast, "isn't this nice? All of us together again." The silence that followed felt like a noose tightening. Ryan watched me, waiting. He thought he knew what was coming. He'd prepared for it, probably had counter-arguments ready for every accusation. "Sarah sends her regards," I said quietly, cutting into my meat. Ryan's fork clattered against his plate. Deborah froze mid-pour. "I ran into her yesterday," I continued. "At the bank, actually. She was quite surprised to see me there. Almost as surprised as when I showed her the transfer records." "Brooke," Ryan started. "Did you know," I turned to Frank, "that Sarah Morrison was Ryan's college girlfriend? Before he married me. Such a romantic reunion story. Though I suppose her husband didn't think so." "That's enough." Ryan's voice cracked like a whip. "No, it's not." I pulled out my folder. "Would you like to tell them about the money, Ryan? Or should I?" "What money?" Deborah's voice was barely a whisper. I slid documents across the table: bank statements, transfer records, emails. Your retirement fund, Deborah. The one Ryan's been managing. Did you check the balance lately? Frank picked up a statement, his military posture crumbling as he read. Son. It's not what it looks like. Ryan stood, desperate now. I can explain everything. Like you explained the ethics investigation. I kept my voice steady. Or the other client affairs. Or how about? The slap caught me off guard, Deborah's hand connecting with my cheek with surprising force. How dare you? In my house. Mother, Ryan reached for her, but she shrugged him off. No. I won't listen to these lies. These accusations against my son are true. Frank's voice cut through her hysteria. He held up another document. The signatures. The dates. It's all here. Frank, please. How much? Frank's question fell like a hammer. How much did you take? Ryan's facade cracked. I can fix this. I just need time. Time for what? I stood slowly. To hide more money. To destroy more evidence. To erase more people who get in your way. I never. You tried to erase me, Ryan. My accounts, my history, my identity, all mysteriously compromised this week. But you forgot something. I pulled out my phone, showed them the screen. Lucas Reed sends his regards. And so does the ethics board. The room tilted sideways as Ryan lunged, not at me, but at the folder. Papers scattered like confetti, Deborah screamed, Frank's water glass shattered on the floor. When the chaos settled, Ryan held a single sheet of paper, his hands shaking. The divorce papers. Already signed. It's over, I said quietly. The board has everything. The police have everything. Sarah Morrison has everything. You bitch. Deborah's voice trembled. You've destroyed this family. No, Deborah. Your son did that. I gathered my purse, stepping carefully around the broken glass. Check your accounts. All of them. Then decide who really betrayed this family. I made it to my car before my hands started shaking. My phone buzzed, Elena, done. Through the dining room window, I could see them, Frank holding the documents, Deborah crying. Ryan standing alone in the wreckage of his perfect life. Almost, I typed back. One more thing to do. I pulled out the pearl earrings, my final piece of evidence, my last act of revenge. Tomorrow they'd be on Sarah Morrison's doorstep, along with copies of everything. Let her explain that to her divorce lawyer. Sometimes karma needs a little help. The law firm's parking garage felt like neutral ground at midnight. Ryan stood between two cars, his perfect suit wrinkled, his lawyer's mask finally cracking. Behind him, Sarah Morrison emerged from the shadows, clutching her designer purse like a shield. You wanted to talk, I said. So talk. This is insane, Brooke. Ryan stepped forward. We can still fix this. All of it. Fix what exactly? I glanced at Sarah. The fraud? The affairs? Or just your reputation? Sarah's perfectly manicured hand trembled. Ryan said you were being unreasonable. Unreasonable. I pulled out my phone, clicked play, Ryan's voice filled the garage, discussing money transfers, fake accounts, plans made years ago. Is that what you call this? Where did you get that? Ryan's voice cracked. Your office. The night I left. Amazing what people say when they think they're alone. I paused the recording. Want to hear the rest? The part about Sarah's husband? Sarah's face went white. What about my husband? Don't, Ryan warned. Why not? Afraid she'll learn how you orchestrated her entire divorce. How you manipulated the settlement to hide money for both of you. That's not, Sarah started. True. I laughed. Check your new offshore account. The one Ryan set up last month. Funny how the amounts match what disappeared from his parents' retirement fund. Ryan lunged for my phone. I stepped back, letting him stumble. Careful. Lucas Reed has copies of everything. One wrong move and it all goes public. You're bluffing. Am I? I nodded toward the garage entrance. Right on cue, Frank's military straight figure appeared, followed by two men in suits. Hello, son. Frank's voice echoed. These gentlemen from the ethics board would like a word. Ryan's face contorted. You brought my father into this? No, Ryan. You did that yourself. I turned to Sarah. They'll want to talk to you too. About the Morrison settlement, the hidden accounts, everything. Sarah's designer bag hit the floor. You promised this wouldn't happen, she hissed at Ryan. You said you had it under control. I did. I do. Ryan reached for her, but she recoiled. Baby, please. Don't baby me. She backed away. My divorce settlement? My accounts? What did you do? What he always does, I answered. Uses people, then erases them when they're no longer useful. The ethics board investigators moved closer. Ryan's eyes darted between them, his father, Sarah, me, looking for an escape route that didn't exist. Brooke, his voice softened, desperate now. Everything I did for us. For our future. No. I stepped closer, close enough to smell his expensive cologne one last time. Everything you did for yourself. And now you get to experience what it feels like to be erased. I pulled out the pearl earrings, his last gift to Sarah, and dropped them at his feet. Your mother wanted me to return these. Apparently, they're family heirlooms. From your grandmother. Sarah's gasp was audible. Ryan's face crumpled. Miss Morrison. One investigator stepped forward. We'll need you to come with us. Wait, Sarah grabbed her bag. I can explain. Save it for the deposition. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Ryan. The divorce papers are already filed. Your signature's been notarized. Funny how cooperative people get when shown the right evidence. Frank moved to his son's side as the investigators closed in. I'm sorry, son. But this ends now. I walked away to the sound of rights being read, Sarah's heels clicking as she fled, and Ryan's world collapsing behind me. Elena waited in her car at the garage entrance. You okay? She asked as I slid into the passenger seat. I watched in the rearview mirror as Ryan was led away, his perfect suit rumpled, his careful plans in ruins. The man who tried to erase me was finally facing erasure himself. I'm free, I said, and for the first time in years, it felt like truth. The courthouse steps felt different this time, no longer intimidating, just stone and concrete beneath my feet. I adjusted my marketing director nameplate, still new enough to make me smile. Elena's company had welcomed me back like I'd never left. Brooke. I turned to find Ryan standing there, his expensive suit replaced by something off the rack. The ethics board investigation had stripped away more than just his law license. The restitution hearing's over, I said. You didn't need to wait. I know. He shifted, uncomfortable in his new skin. I saw Frank there. He wouldn't look at me. Can you blame him? No. He ran a hand through his graying hair. Mother's still not speaking to anyone. The shame, she says. Deborah always did care more about appearances than truth. Like father, like son. His attempt at a smile failed. You look good. Happy. I am. I checked my watch, lunch with Lucas in 20 minutes. Was there something you needed? I wanted to tell you. He pulled something from his pocket, a small velvet box. I found these while packing up the house. Inside lay a pair of simple pearl studs, my first anniversary gift, before the grand gestures and manipulations began. Keep them, I said. They were always yours. The real ones, I mean. He closed the box. Everything else, the other jewelry, the gifts, the life we built, that was all fake. My fake. But these? He set the box on the step between us. These were true. Truth's not really your strong suit, Ryan. I know. But I'm learning. Therapy's helping. He straightened his drugstore tie. I never wanted to erase you, Brooke. I wanted to keep you. I just didn't know how to do that without controlling everything. And now I'm learning how to exist without controlling anything. He glanced at his watch, the Rolex replaced by something practical. Your boyfriend's waiting, isn't he? Lucas? How did you? Small town. People talk. He shrugged. He's a good lawyer. Ethical. Everything I pretended to be. A car horn honked, Elena, right on schedule. Beyond her, I could see Lucas waiting at our usual cafe table, patient and uncomplicated. Goodbye, Ryan. Goodbye, Brooke. He turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Not just for what I did, but for who I was. I watched him descend the steps, shoulders squared against the weight of consequences. The velvet box sat between us like a full stop at the end of a very long sentence. I picked it up, feeling its lightness. Inside, the pearl studs caught the sunlight, simple, unadorned, honest in their modesty. Everything our marriage hadn't been. Elena's horn honked again. Through the cafe window, Lucas raised his coffee cup in greeting, no expectations in his smile. I slipped the box into my purse, not quite keeping it, not quite letting go. Some stories don't end with neat conclusions. Sometimes the truest endings are the ones that leave room for questions. The courthouse doors opened behind me, releasing another wave of people into the afternoon sun. Among them, Frank Davis walked alone, his military posture softened by time and disappointment. He nodded as he passed, a gesture somewhere between acknowledgement and approval. We'd both learned the same lesson: sometimes the people we trust most are the ones who teach us how to be stronger by breaking us. I descended the steps, leaving behind the echoes of accusations and revelations. Ahead, Lucas stood to greet me, his smile offering not a fairy tale ending, but something better, a beginning without pretense. The pearl studs pressed against my side, a small weight to remind me that even in revenge, even in justice, there are pieces of truth worth keeping. Not as trophies, but as lessons in what to value and what to leave behind. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't in destroying your opponent, but in walking away with your own truth intact.